Alright, go for it. Whoa, 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 whoa! Right before I start this video series, and it's going to be a big video series because it's engine out, it's doing the chain, it's doing water pumps, fan belts, servicing the automatic gearbox, doing absolutely everything on this 2010 Mercedes E-Class. It's a W212, this is the 2.2 diesel. And yes, the chain is at the back, and a lot of people moan about it, but there's good reasons why the chain's at the back for the running of the engine, but that's for another video. And I don't blame people now to unsubscribe to me, and the reason why I say that is because this is a subscriber of mine's car, and they contacted me and they wanted me to check it out, and I essentially said buy it. Well, not really, but I did. You know, I said it's okay, look, it is what it is. So they kind of bought it on my word. So I understand everyone, you know, unsubscribe to me because I've just told someone to buy a Mercedes, a 12-year-old Mercedes. Anyway, all joking aside, to be fair, you know, these W212s, they're not too bad. Yes, they have problems, but you tell me what car doesn't have problems. Yes, they're expensive to fix, but that's just because, you know, it's a Mercedes. But we should have some really, really good videos on this. Like I said, how to do the rear chain, so engine has to come out, servicing of the automatic gearbox, and once the engine is out, what the customer has done is, which is the best way of doing it, is we're just replacing everything. So new fan belts, new water pumps, heater plugs, everything, basically everything, because why not once you're in there? It just kind of makes sense. Not a lot of people will do that because it costs more money in parts, but the labor is nothing really, it's just the extra parts. So if you was to come back and do the water pump in this inside the car, it's going to cost you a hell of a lot more. So I'm just heating this up now because what I want to do is I want to take the heater plugs out first. So enjoy. God knows how many parts this is going to be, but enjoy me destroying a Mercedes. Right, so like I said, this is a big job. The first thing I'm going to do, the only bit I'm kind of worried about, is the injectors. We have to take the injectors out because we have to take the rock cover off to set the timing up, so the injectors have to come out. I've just had this ticking over for about an hour and a half, get them nice and warm. That does cause problems because it's obviously quite hot when you go to it, but it also hopefully makes the injectors come out better. A few things to be aware of. You can see the little white mark on the return pipes of the injectors. That means that it is locked. So you have to push these down like that, so you can't see them. So you then know that we can get this out essentially. So I'll go through all that once I start on doing everything. Right, the really good thing is the first ones came out really easy. So I just want to show you the way I'm going to do it. So I'm going to mark everything. I've got a little box here and I've marked the first pipe number 1. I've marked the injector number 1. Now we can take this off here and put it in there. It's bloody hot. All you need, 17mm and a T47 torque and Tipex and a screwdriver. So the first thing you need to do is I'll try and film it. Like I was explaining before, you see that little white mark? We need to lift this up. You have to be very careful. Lift that up as you see to there. That will then release the... Come on, one hand's a bit of a nightmare. Come on. It will release the... Come on. The return. Anyway, one hand's a nightmare. Next thing I do is take off the feed pipe going to it. Then we'll take off the clip, then we get to the T47, which actually holds it down. It's just underneath the clip there, you can't quite see it. What I'm going to do, just to make it easy for myself, is I'm going to take off all the actual clips going to the injectors, and you just push down, just see it, can you see it there? Just push down that little clip, the silver part comes out. I'll try and do it. So awkward doing it one-handed. Where are we? Here. Just pull down on that. There we go, like that. You see that clip comes out? So I'm going to take all them off first. That will just allow me to actually take off the wires going to it so I can get to the injectors easier. Right, now, there you go, look, you can see the T47 that holds it down. I've just taken off the wiring going to the injectors, disconnected the sensor here at the top of the engine, just gives me a lot more room. But first I need to take off this and mark this. Right, hopefully this comes off okay. Does kind of feel a bit scary because they can click. Trying to do this one-handed is a bit awkward. And like I said, the other awkward thing is because it's bloody hot, but it's the best way of doing it. Now I keep the bolts with the injector just in case. Get a bar and be very, very careful and just slightly leave it up. Look at that. And I'm being seriously careful here now. And there we go. Another one off. And so far, we've got the washers off as well. I'm replacing all the washers, obviously. But it's just handy to know if you've got the washers off, because if you don't take them off, and especially you do all the engine stripping and that, you might forget it's in there and put a second washer on and then you're in trouble. So I'm going to mark this injector number 2 now. Right, okay, lucky enough, they are all out and the customer's going to be happy. So, I've marked everything. I've marked the injector, I've marked this, and I've put the original one back. Now, the only thing is, on injector number 4, the washer didn't come with it. But all the other washers came with it. So, I've just got to take injector number 4 washer out, which is no big deal, hopefully. I'm going to do that now before I go any further so I don't forget. Right, number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, the copper washer is just there. But it's going to be nice and easy to remove that. I say that, but I shouldn't have said that now, should I? I'm going to try and do this one-handed. This is my little injector washer seal remover slide hammer thing. It is bloody brilliant. So, slides down. It slides down, just lower that. No, it doesn't. Sometimes this here gets in the way. Let's remove that. I can't do it one-handed. Right, let's try again. So, goes down. Does it actually go down? It does. Just twist it. Ooh. Maybe it doesn't go down. Hold on. Is this going to be a bit worse than I thought? Maybe it doesn't go down. Bagger! Is it still there? It is. Couldn't get it, so hopefully a bit of compressed air. Where are we? Look, where is it? There it is, there it is. Compressed air for the win in that case. Boom. Right, look at that, how off-centered it was. So there wasn't long left on that before it was leaking. None of them was leaking, but what I'm getting at is it wasn't long left. So we're going to be replacing all them with new ones anyway. Replacing everything with new ones. Even when we take this cover off, we've got new seals, we've got new everything to go on this, because it's the best way of doing it. Right, before you disconnect the battery, what you want to do is open your boot, put this like that, slide the lock across, so now it can't get locked. When I disconnect the battery, I can still get in and out the boot, because I'm going to put everything into boxes and I'll have it in the boot, so nothing's going to get lost, nothing's going to go missing, and it's all going to be exactly where I put it. So what we're going to do is disconnect the battery, which is right there. Like I was explaining before, this is one of my subscribers who contacted me and wanted me to look at the car and do the job. And unfortunately, my fault, I've had this car for 3 weeks and I haven't touched it. And as you can imagine, not particularly happy, and I completely understand it. So we are now cracking on and we are getting it done. Because my fault, I did promise I would have it done and I didn't. So it's all on me, but we are getting to it now. So I have the injectors off. which is what I was, the kind of the most thing I was worried about. Disconnected the battery, two 10mm bolts, battery's disconnected. Now what I'm going to mostly do is, I'm going to mostly take the gearbox down first, because you can take the engine and gearbox down together, but the way I'm doing it, it's just going to be easier for me to take the gearbox down separately. I have to take the gearbox off anyway to do the chain, so I was trying to get a big huge trolley that was adjustable, that I could put the engine and gearbox underneath and drop it down as one go. I have made one, but at the minute it's supporting an engine of a Hillman Imp, so I haven't got that engine back, so I can't use it for this one. So I'm going to have to do this on jack stands and just separate the gearbox separately. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave everything here. And we're going to go underneath, and there is a few little things you need to be aware of, and people do say, well, taking the engine out, blah blah blah, but also this is the way it's kind of designed, is to do it as well. So it's been designed in a way, to a degree, that you can take it out relatively easily, if that is relative. What I'm going to do now is get it on the lift, get the gearbox, or start looking at the gearbox, taking the exhaust down, taking the covers underneath, exhaust, drive shafts, or prop shafts, and then gearbox. There's three covers we have to take off: the front cover, and the middle cover, and the back cover, so we can get to engine, gearbox, radiators, absolutely everything. They're just a load of 8mm, so I'm going to take all that off, then we'll see what we're doing. Right, I've taken all the covers off. I've got my box full of bolts, which I will put in the boot once I actually come to put the car down. So what I want to do next is I want to disconnect the exhaust from here, just after the DPF, and from here, so the middle section is going to come out. We're going to remove this support here for the covers. We're going to remove this support here, leave that gearbox support in, take off the brackets here, so we've got complete access, then our earth strap, and then essentially our pipes going into it. You can see one pipe here, another pipe up there. Then we're going to have a couple more of the pipes, and then it's just essentially the ring of bolts. We'll get to the torque converter here, and then we can take that gearbox down separately, and then obviously we can do the engine as a complete unit. So engine, subframe, suspension, everything comes down as a separate unit. So just let me get these few bits out first, out the way, and then you can see what I'm doing. Right, so it's an E12 inverted torque to remove this exhaust clamp. Should be the same on this side, but someone's put 12 pointed bloody 10mm socket there, which is, anyway. And then in the middle here we've got a bracket with two 13mm bolts on it, and essentially this now exhaust is off. So I'm going to remove the exhaust, then I'm going to remove these brackets here, get that out of the way, remove this, so I can then get into the prop shaft. Right, so take off this plate here. We've got 6 what was they, T45 torques, and to take off this we had 2 E12 inverted torques, which is just down there, as you can see. Next thing I'm going to do is take off the prop shaft. Now I've quickly marked it, so I'm going to take it off. You only have to take off either these 3 bolts or these 3 bolts. It doesn't really matter which. If you were replacing a donut, you'd have to take them all off, but we're just separating it from the gearbox. So we've got that to do. We've also, like I said, we've got the lines to do. We've got an earth to do here. We've also, on this side, we've got the plug for it, the bloody plug for it just in there. And we've also got to take off the dipstick, so undo that, push that up, and then it's essentially the ring of bolts all the way around to get the gearbox off. Right, so to get the prop shaft off, you need an E60 torque and 18mm spanner. And these are what the bolts look like. Now what we've got to do is we've got to drain the gearbox. Now I'm going to do a separate video on essentially how to do a service on these gearbox, because there's a few things you need to know. Like these bolts need to be replaced, you can't use them, there's stuff inside. There's a lot of stuff that is only technically one use only. Like the gasket here, these bolts, you know, stuff like that. So I'm going to go through that. But what I'm going to do just for the minute is I'm just going to drain this. And there's obviously a procedure to fill this as well. Now this is a 5mm Allen key. And is it going to play ball with me? Ooh. Wow. That is tight. Someone's over tightened that. That is way too tight. Fortunately, this is why you just need loads of different types of tools, because a normal Allen key wouldn't work. So I had to get an Allen key in a socket, essentially. You know, it's not a proper socket, it's a proper Allen key, but that thing was tight. Like, this is an extra long 1/4" ratchet, and that was tight. Tight, it's twisted the socket in the sump plug, but I'm sure with the new kit I've got, should have a new sump plug in it. It looks dirty, but it isn't as dirty as it looks. It's kind of a green fluid that looks dirty on camera. Anyway, we'll let that drain. And yeah, that's completely stuck inside that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the plate and the electrical connection for the solenoid. That's the word I couldn't think of before. I'm going to take the dipstick off, because again, these things I can't film anyway because they're just completely in the way. Then I'm going to take the selector off, just there, look, take that off. We're going to take off the earth, then we'll take off the transmission lines, or the cooler lines should I say, gearbox cooler lines, and then we can start taking the ringer bolts off and get this gearbox down. Right, so what I've done is, you can see I've taken them off, and I've just put the banjo bolts back. It does a couple of things. One, you don't lose them, you don't lose the washers, and it plugs up a hole. So this is all now released. There was a couple of inverted Torx here. You can actually use an 8mm spanner on them. But again, best thing to do is just screw everything back in where it was. You can't lose it. You'll know exactly where it goes afterwards, and it makes your life a hell of a lot easier. If this video looks a bit weird, it's because I'm taking the engine out, so I have to kind of film it in all weird places so I can make the actual gearbox video itself, if that makes sense. I've seen loads of gearbox videos online telling you how to service these automatic gearboxes, but I haven't seen one yet that tells you to release the drain plug from the torque converter, because you can release it from here, but you've still got a lot of oil in there, and you've also got oil in your cooler as well. So I'm going to show you how to do all that, and I just haven't seen anyone to do it. So anyway, but basically there's a little drain plug inside your torque converter, so just essentially like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to undo this, we're going to drain the oil out of there, and we can continue getting the gearbox off there. Again, trying to do this one-handed is pretty awkward, but I just have to laugh when I see these tutorials on YouTube, and basically they're forgetting half the oil. Well, it's a slight exaggeration, but you kind of get what I mean. Stay there. Oh, that's really hot. Oh, that's really hot still. Anyway, so let's go let that drain. Right, that's a 4mm Allen key, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. And yes, look, there's not loads of oil in there, but between the oil that's in here and the cooler, it's still a good bit of old oil that you want to get out, you know, to make the gearbox oil as fresh as possible. So what I've got to do now is I've got to keep spinning the engine, because there's going to be, if I remember correctly, 6 bolts to take the torque converter off the engine, off the back plate of the engine, and they're normally in like 2s, they're together, and there's 3 sets of 2s. I'll show you what I mean once I get to one. Right, there they are, and if memory serves, they're a T55. Well, I brought a T55 with me, hopefully I'm right. Oh, there we go, yeah, T55. So again, as memory serves, there's going to be 3 sets, so, you know, 3 sets of 2, so there's going to be 6 bolts. But yeah, so that will release the torque converter from the engine essentially, and then once we undo all the bolts, the gearbox is out. Just as I thought, just 6 bolts, 3 sets of 2, bloody compressor. You'll know when you got them all, because when you spin the engine, the back plate won't move, it'll just stay there, because, you know, oh sorry, the torque converter won't move because it will just stay there. So yeah, it's easy enough to know how it's done. Then all I'm going to have to do is take off the earth, start taking off the ringer bolts. These also, they are the ringer bolts of the gearbox, but they're also mount for the exhaust. Then I've got the electrical connection for the solenoid, then I've got the dipstick, that's a 10mm I believe. Just loosen that off slightly and lift it up, you don't have to take that bolt all the way out. And then what we're going to have to do is, providing that's everything, and the linkage here, I think that's everything then. It's just a case of supporting this with the engine stand or the gearbox stand. I'm going to put some pieces of wood because I don't really want to go on that. Lower this down a little bit, and some long lever bars for the top gearbox bolts, and then the gearbox is out. You can just see one kind of poking through there. Look, I can't get to that, and there's going to be maybe 3. So if you look under here, maybe 4. I can't remember, it's 3 or 4 from the top. So imagine this is the top. There's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 3. I can't remember. But that's essentially how they're going to be, but mirrored on the top. So yeah, let me crack on with that. Right, what I've done is I've just taken the DPF just to make it as slightly easy to get to these bolts, and also it's just kind of in the way of the exhaust. But it's not a big deal. But look at the clamp bolt that was holding it on, and it didn't break. It was the clamp bolt that was holding on here, look at that. So 13mm clamp belt, 17mm pipe here, E14 Torx for this, and a T25 to hold the actual line on there, and then this whole thing came off, so it just makes sense to do it. The good thing is all the gearbox bolts are the same length, so you don't have to worry about them. You can just put them in one place. You can see we've got a lot more room here now. That's gone. We've still got one, and we've got a couple at the top. I've loosened all the ones along here, loosened the earth. That can stay on the car. Remember, this one comes through the brackets. You want to put that back. You can just kind of see that one up there. I might be able to get to that one here, but look, it's a little bit awkward. So yeah, at the minute it's not bad. So I've also released this. We've done the back. We've also released the gear, the dipstick. So what I'm going to do now is, before I forget, is I'm going to release the actual solenoid plug. Again, in the gearbox overhaul kit, or the gearbox service kit, this is actually replaceable as well. You should get it. If you buy a decent set, you should get it. These do have troubles with leaking, and oil just gets in here, and then capillary action takes over. So you can see this one, we're really good. That's not a problem, which is good. Less problems, the better. And there we go. That's how you take that off. You look in there, and it's all good. It's exactly what you want to see. Right, completely disconnected this now, and I've managed to get the top 2 bolts here. Now bear in mind, like I said, all the gearbox bolts are the same length, apart from the starter motor bolts. The starter motor bolts are longer, but again, you cannot physically get them mixed up, because look, that won't go all the way in, so you really can't. And it is possible to get to this one and that one without having to take the gearbox down. You do need this. You ready? You do need that, but see if I can do this one-handed. So get in there, look, it's on there, and then straighten it up. So I am now at this type of angle. I've already loosened it. You can see, look, I can get to that one fairly handy. So that's why it always pays to have a lot of extensions, a lot of different sizes, a lot of different size tools. Even like this is now a 3/8 E14. I was working on a 1/2 inch E14 a few minutes ago, and there we go. Right, this is the way I've done it. So I have the piece of wood on the back, and I have a piece of wood at the front, which means I've got nothing resting on the sump part of the gearbox. It's just rest on a piece of wood at either end, which gives it a lot more support, and I'm not, you know, going to bend or break this. And I've lowered the gearbox down, as you can see, not much, but enough to hopefully, can we get you in here? I can't get you in, I don't think. We have, there we go, look. So we have one bolt, focus, focus, focus. Right, that's the other gearbox, or the, there we go. That's the other starter motor bolt, and then just, we might have actually 3. We got 3. Oh, come on, focus. Yeah, we got 3 there. You can see one in the middle, and then one just to the left. So we've got 3 more to go. We're going to use that big long socket and extensions that we used before. Right, I got them. As you can see, we've got a ring or a gap around the whole of the gearbox now. So I'm not going to be able to film this, but we're just going to have to push it out this way and lower it down on the transmission jack, and we're good. But just be careful, just make sure you've got everything disconnected and lower it down slowly, because there's always something you could miss. Right, and there we go, the gearbox is off, and it's just going to be a lot easier to show the bolts now. As you can see, one directly in the middle, this was the second start motor bolt, and then this was the other bolt. So essentially 3 in the middle, and it's all done. A little bit of leaking from the back seal, but again we're going to replace that, so that's a good thing. We are replacing that seal. We didn't need to take off the drive shaft completely because we took down the torque converter. If you don't take down the torque converter, if you don't undo it, you will have to completely remove the prop shaft, but didn't need to do that because we take down the torque converter. Here is the gearbox. Torque converter is in place. We have just cable tied it there just in case, because the last thing you want is that to fall out and obviously get damaged. There is the gearbox sitting on some wood, so it's nice and safe, and yeah, it's out of the way, and we'll be doing a full service on that anyway, but it's always handy just to, you know, put something in here, because that can easily come out. It doesn't take much, and that's the last thing you want. So there we go. Take the engine out now. Right, this is the way I left it after every single job, and what I mean by every single job is I class the gearbox as a job, the engine as a job. You know, you separate it and you keep everything separate. So you tidy your tools away, you put all the nuts and bolts away for one job, and then you do for another job. This way you can't get confused. You're gonna have everything. You're gonna have everything back. You're not gonna lose anything. It's just the way I do it. Obviously, someone's over tightened all this. Listen to this. Oh, I'm putting all my weight on here. Oh, ridiculous. My big gun at over 1300 newtons wouldn't undo that. Absolutely ridiculous. And the lock nut the far side is welded on. Don't know how I'm going to get that off. Right, these are the problems with jobs like this, unexpected issues that you don't really think about. So this lock nut, I would never put a gun on it, I would never put the big gun on it, but it is so, see this bar bending, see that, look at that. This is so tight, it's stupid. Oh, I got it. Bloody hell, that's just stupid. Whoever did that. I've wedged the brake pedal down, so that means I'm not going to lose any fluid. What I'm doing is I'm concentrating on getting everything disconnected from the wheel side, so obviously I've took the wheel off. I really like this about Mercedes, the way they've designed the ABS sensor. You essentially just pull down this little clip, you take off this mudguard, you pull down a little clip and it pops out. Now, to be fair, sometimes you just have to lift the clip up because there's a bit of crap gets into it. That just pulls out really nice and easy. And on the far side, you got two. You got the brake wear sensor and the ABS. And again, exactly the same thing. Really nice, really handy. But then they decide to put the brake line through the suspension. So you can't just take off the caliper and hang it up there. You have to physically disconnect it, which is not a big deal, but it just means, you know, bleeding the brakes. It means just more hassle. If you don't wedge the brake pedal, you're going to lose all the brake fluid from the ABS pump, and they can be a nightmare to bleed without scan tools and stuff. So it's just, this absolutely brilliant, this absolutely stupid. It's just crazy how they do it sometimes. Right, as you can see, everything's disconnected. It's just 11mm, and as you can see, there's no drips. Well, I mean, technically I know you've just seen a drip there, but believe me, it's not dripping because the brake pedal is basically stopping it from dripping. E12, take out the 3 suspension bolts on each side. Now the suspension is loose, so it's just a case of disconnecting all the pipes now and the subframe underneath. Right, there's not too much to disconnect from the bottom. This little clip is for the transmission lines. So what you need to do is, I've marked them with cable ties, which one is which. There's only 2. You pull this little rubber back, and then there's a little clip inside it that looks like this. You pull the clip out and that comes out. Very, very simple. So, but be careful, obviously you don't lose the clip, and there is a little O-ring there, so be careful of that. Then all we got to do is take out these 2 rods here, and that is basically everything underneath. Oh, and the steering. So, and the steering column, and then everything else, I think, maybe these pipes, everything else apart from maybe them is from, yeah, these, I've got to take off these, haven't I? But everything else is from the top. Right, I think we've got everything done at the bottom. So, intercooler pipes, they're both off. Transmission cooler lines, they are off. Brake lines and ABS sensors and brake wear pads, they are off. Fuel lines, they are off. I had to just put a spark plug in that because obviously he's pissing out. Again, I've put a little cable tie here and a little cable tie there. They are two completely different sizes, so it's not really that difficult to get them wrong, but still, you do need a little special tool to get these out, but you can just replace these with duplicates, so you can actually just cut these off and rip these off and replace them with duplicates. It's not essential to have them in that particular one. I've taken out the two braces here, just put the screws back in, as you can see there, so that's all good. We have taken off the steering rack. Now again, there's no keyway on this, but there is this plastic thing here. Now I've marked it, just in case for some reason it moves and you can be in trouble. So yeah, it's just might as well mark everything. So I think that is everything from underneath. These are the subframe bolts. We've got one here, one there, one there, and another one there. We will have to support the radiator because I'm not taking that down. But I think once we've disconnected a few things from the top, it essentially is just undoing them 4 bolts. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet, whether I'm going to leave it on axle stands, even thinking about putting it on the engine crane. I'm not sure yet, but we'll figure that out. It's just, like I said, the special thing I made for these, for anything like this, I'm using it on a Hillman Imp at the minute, so I can't use it on this. But anyway, right, let's get the car down and crack on with it. Right, the only thing I've done is remove the actual cold intake here, which is just clipped in there, and a little screw, just half turn it and it comes out. So what I need to do now is disconnect the water pipes. So we've got returns, we've got the water down there, we then got the pipe here, we've got air conditioning pipes. Now obviously remember, you know, don't just don't just vent that to atmosphere, actually, you know, take it in with a proper machine. Then we've got to disconnect the wiring harness, and lucky enough, the way it's designed, we can just disconnect it halfway from the ECU. Then we've got to disconnect the jump point here, well technically it's just under here, just there, not the actual jump point. And theoretically then, there's always going to be one little pipe I've missed or something, but then the 4 bolts, oh yes, also the vacuum line for the brakes, and that I think is practically it, but we'll see if I forget something. Okay, I think we're more or less there. Now, disconnected the vacuum. These can be a nightmare. Someone's been here before, unfortunately. I don't know what they've done, but there was, look, you can see there's cable ties here, there was cable ties around here. They've butchered this, so I've just taken this off here. Just be careful to put that pipe on the back, it's easier. That is simple if it's not been butchered. These connections down here, where are they? The knock sensor, that was all broke, look. What else? There was something else I see now, I can't think, or I can't remember. Anyway, so yeah, someone's been at this before now. It could have just been when they were doing the air filter or something, I'm not sure, but anyway, look. Essentially, that's the wiring loom disconnected. This bit of wiring here and this here, which is for the jump start, essentially. So that is the wiring harness disconnected. If you was ever going to put an engine in one of these, make sure you get the wiring harness with it, because it's so much easier to change like this. You don't have to strip any of the harness. Now we're going to have to strip a little bit because we're working in there. But disconnected the power steering pipe at the top, pipe down there. Disconnected the air conditioning. There's still one more pipe just down. Where is it? There. It looks nice and easy, but believe me, it isn't. Need to disconnect that. Water pipes, return pipes are disconnected. 2 water pipes, return pipes, they're all disconnected. So, as you can see, we are basically, apart from one pipe, I think, ready to disconnect the subframe. I've just I'm still not sure yet how I'm going to do it, which way. There's a few ways I'm thinking. What I want to try and do is I don't really want to move the engine, and what I mean by that is once I disconnect this, I don't mind putting axle stands and working on the car. Lift the car all the way up on the lift and keep the engine in the same position. Just get a little chair, sit there underneath the car and work on the engine, because at least that way when I come to put the car back down, the subframe and that shouldn't have really have moved. And in certain circumstances, depending on what you've got as regards trolleys and stuff, it is maybe easier to take the gearbox down in one lump, gearbox and the engine. But with the way I'm doing it, I just couldn't do that, unfortunately. You have to take the gearbox off anyway, so yes, it is technically a little bit easier to take it on and off when the engine is out, but it's not really that much harder. Because what you can find is when you're taking the gearbox in and out, you can move the engine, which is harder to line up the car. I would sooner have the engine just not move and struggle a little bit lining up the gearbox, because it's just easier. But anyway, it's up to you how you want to do it. But I think apart from that one AC line, I think we are good to go. Yeah, so let me see if I can get that AC line off, and we'll go from there. Right, I think we have everything done now. Managed to get that last AC line off, which is a T40 or T45, and it comes off, and that is it, I think. But always a good thing, just double check everything. So I'm going to go around making sure I've got everything disconnected. I'm going to lift it up, make sure I've got everything disconnected. Then I'm going to figure out exactly what I'm going to do. Am I going to put it on axle stands? Am I going to put it on the engine hoist? Exactly what I'm going to do. And I know people are maybe screaming, whoa, why don't you lift the engine up out of here? With the way the sump's designed, it's just very difficult, and you can break the sump. So, and doing it this way really isn't, I actually think in this particular case, trying to lift it up is harder than what I'm doing now. And I've done a few of these, so. Anyway, another thing is, I know I'm going to get people asking me is, well, surely you can do the chain inside the car, doesn't have to take the engine out. And technically you can, but you can't do the guides. And the problem is, it's not just the chain that breaks or stretches or anything, it's also the guides that can give problems. So you're best off just taking out and replacing everything. I've seen people cut the chain and spin the engine around and put the new one in, so you don't have to take anything out, and yeah, blah blah. Yeah, look, technically it works, but again, you're just replacing the chain. You've got old guides, you've got old sprockets, and again, it's not just the chain that wears, it's the sprockets, it's the guides, it's everything. So look, if you're going to do it, just do it properly. So once I've double checked everything, I think we've got everything off down here. Like I said, all the wiring harness practically stays on. Air conditioning pipes, power steering pipes and water pipes is essentially the only things you have to take off. So yeah, I think we're good to go. I'm just going to double check. Right, I think 4 axle stands is going to do it. Essentially one on each corner. What I'm doing now is I'm just cleaning up all this, because it's just nice to be working in a clean environment. Even though I caught a lot of the water and the oil, still a bit spilt. So I'm going to clean up that first, and then put 4 axle stands underneath here, 1 in each corner. Give us enough room to get to these bolts. Also, another thing to be aware of, which you can't quite see, but what I've done is I've got the car on a slight angle coming forward, so when the engine comes out, the weight is still forward. The car's not going to spring back. If you've got a lot of the weight at the back, the engine will be holding it on, and you can have an issue. So I've got the risers at the front and no risers at the back, so the car is leaning forward. So when I take the engine out, it's going to essentially still be as regards evenly weight, rather than more weight on the back of the lift, and the car can't fall off. So I think I got everything off. I cannot see anything. There's always maybe something. It's just the nature of the beast. And the thing with the reason why I'm going to go for the axle stands is because they're a lot higher off the ground, and I can still get my gun up here and actually shoot down them bolts, where if I put it on the engine crane, you see it's a lot lower to the ground, so I'm going to struggle to get the gun underneath, so that's why I'm going with that. Right, I think I am ready. I have got 4 axle stands underneath, 1 on each corner. I have loosened the bolts. You have the small one at the front, the larger one at the back. I think it's a E16. Am I right in saying that? Yes, E16 inverted torque. And now I think we are ready to lift up the car on the lift, and theoretically the engine should stay more or less where it is. Let's find out. Just lift up a little bit first and we'll just check the radio, make sure it doesn't move.
Ready?
Yep, go.
Ready?
Go.
Go.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Radiator's moving. Do it again. And again. Right. Radiator stopped. Yeah, I heard it, but it's nothing. Just do it again. A little bit. A little bit. Okay, whoa. I think we're good. Oh, hold on. Of course. Heater matrix. Right, I didn't do the heater matrix. Stop, and let's do the heater matrix. Right, heater matrix done. Go for it. Go on. Go on. Go on. Go on. What was that? What was that? What was that? What was that? Oh, it's just the little plastic mud guards. Make sure we're secure. The okay, go. Right, just hold it there. I just need to get the other spring so it doesn't clatter the. Okay, go. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What the hell is that? This is in my way now. It's just more water, that's all.
Did you have that pipe off? Why you don't disconnect that one? Easy. Oh no, that goes down.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Right, I think keep lifting up.
Okay.
Yep. Whoa, 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 whoa! It's moving. It's moving, it's moving. No, 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 no. It's moving. It was just the axle stand just moving a little bit. We were just knocked it in. Up, yeah.
You have to check on the engine bay. I think it's catching the radiator.
Nope. Hold on.
Check for a second like that.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Yeah, it is.
You have to get the jack.
No, 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 it's not. It's not gone. It's just rubbing. It's not touching. Go on. Okay, stop, 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 stop. I can't see if it's moving now on the axle stands. Slightly moving on the axle stands. Okay.
Okay.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Fuck.
Oh, what's happened?
Transmission line. It's going to hit the intake. Alright, hold on. I'm going to have to take it off. Then we're not going to have a problem. We had a bit of technical difficulty. I ended up taking this out. This was getting wedged. I just took the bracket from the DPF and it was just getting wedged. Now the engine is a lot freer. So now, and I did say like before, you always forget something. I forgot 2 things, but anyway. Now it should be good to go. Right, what you're about to see, I showed the customer as well. I could have edited this out. I could have made out it all went well, but this is real life. What the problem I had is I was trying to get the hero shot where the engine just comes out, the car lifts up, the engine stays there and it all looks nice and, you know, Hollywood. But at the end of the day, this isn't Hollywood. I keep everything in and I tell the truth because these are the sort of things that are going to happen to you. It looks a hell of a lot worse than what it actually is. But yeah, so everyone knows it's real life. I'm not going to hide it. These things happen. Nothing got damaged. So at the end of the day, all well's that ends. Right, go for it. Whoa, 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 whoa. Just put a jack at the back just to give it a bit more security. Okay, go. And there we go. We are good. Right, we are all out. All supported. I'm just going to tie the suspension back to the arms. I'm going to get the gear or the engine stand, I'm going to slide it in and I'm going to support it with the back one to stop it from diving down as I'm working on it. I've got plenty of room. The car is up on its locks on the lift, so that's not going anywhere. And now I've got plenty of room, obviously once I put the engine crane there, once I take the jack out of the way, to do everything I absolutely need. So there we go. Right, we are all good to go. It's all secure with engine stands, jack stands, just everything. We can now take out the jack and we can actually get to the timing chain. It's only quite small, it's about here, and then the two sprockets are there. Bloody compressor! The compressor's turned off. So everything is ready for fan belts, water pumps, what else are doing in the front? Fan belt, water pump, heater plugs, timing chain, all new seals and stuff. I think that's about it. The worst bolt to get to, and I'm hoping we can get, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, as long as we can get these two diesel lines off, because there is a bolt right there, see it there, lad, there she blows. We need to get that off to release this cover. If they just bolted this the other way, you could have unbolted it here and here and it would have been simples, but no, they had to do it like that. So, but if we can move these pipes that way, it'll save us stripping the whole thing. We have to take off this, or take out these bolts, but you know, that can kind of stay there. That doesn't really affect us, because this part stays here, the head part stays there. Anyway, it's just this cover comes off, this cover comes off, and this cover comes off, but the middle bit always stays there, so it doesn't really make a difference that that's there. There's the chain tensioner right there. So yeah, and then I might as well service it also when it's down. So we can do the air filter, diesel filter, oil filter, do all that when it's down as well. So when we put it back up, it'll all be fresh. Right, if you get one of these Mercedes in and you get a starter motor, I would advise you to say you are very busy, because just to get to, imagine this in the car, so all the airbox has to come off, ECU has to come off, the whole exhaust system, the CAT, the DPF, all has to come off, the plate has to come off there, and then the starter motor can come off. We have to take the starter motor off because there's a couple of bolts behind it. We also have to take off all the EGR cooler. Not take it off, but just loosen it, because there's two bolts. It's not even so much this one. This one obviously is the one to get the cover off, but that's not the issue. Literally about here and about there is there's two guide pins for the timing chain. So, or the timing chain guide, and we have to move that to the side to get that off. So yeah, that's what we have to do. Get this supported a lot better so I can take off the jack at the back. Right, a few things you want to do is you want to be comfortable when you're doing a job like this. So I've got my little bench, which is used tyres and the actual bottom tray of the Merc. I've got a little stool, which means I can just work at the engine, and this is going to be my camera because I'm going to maybe do some what do you call it, can't remember the word. Seriously cannot remember the word. You know when you press the video and you speed it up, time lapse, Jesus Christ. Time lapse. so you can kind of see what I'm doing. With a job like this, you really do want to be either replacing the start motor with a brand new one or getting it reconditioned, something like that, even though it's fine. But because this is such a big job to do inside the car, but I know if I ask the customer for a bit more time, he's not going to be happy, and I don't blame him because it's all on me. So I will suggest it, but I don't know if we will be doing it this time. But what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to take off the rest of the part of the exhaust, take off the sensor, disconnect the pipe from here, disconnect it from here, disconnect the sensor, and I can just kind of put it out the way. Just rest it down there, and at least I can get to the start motor and a couple of bolts behind it. Right, so start motor is off, and you can see there's this one bolt, but it's this bolt here really. That's the one where the start motor is really kind of. You can maybe get it, you know, but look, it's just, especially now the engine's out, it's just as easy to take the start motor off. So now I'm just going to work my way around, start loosening off the EGR cooler. Like I said, we don't need to completely take it off. We just need to loosen it off, just so I can push it back to about here, so I can get the two pins that hold the slider in place. T55, but I need to use a different one. Right, essentially these are all going to be E10 inverted torques. You can see where we're looking under here. We need to take off this pipe. There's going to be a couple more around here. I can't remember. Oh yeah, this, and then this. Like I said, we can just physically move this. We're not just going to disconnect it. We're just going to allow it to move out the way, just to give us a bit more room. And don't worry, they're all the same size. Oh, look, that, I wasn't expecting to see that much, considering the car drives good. Wow, look at that. Right, you can see this is now loose, just not loose enough. It's just hitting this top bracket here, which is in here. So I just need to get this off first before I can get to the bolt down there. I need to take that off anyway because I'm doing the heater plug, so I need to strip all this. You don't necessarily need to take this off completely to do the rocker cover, but because I'm doing the heater plugs, I do need to take it off. So again, just a case of disconnecting a couple of sensors, lifting this up, just bending it out the way. I'll do a time lapse on that as well. And then we can get to everything. This is a problem. Someone has broken. No, this is a problem. Someone's broken the plug. It needs to move here. I need to get it I think I'm going to just hang it in there. Just leave this to this side here. Right, there's a little strap down here. It's another T10, but because it's in a really awkward spot, you can actually use a 8mm spanner. Two more right there, because I'm going to tie and put some tape around that so it reminds me that I've got to put an earth rack. And now I need to take again, don't really do it because I'm doing it. Now, I'm going to take off that and see all the goes fairly. I take fairly. Fairly. Where's that? Here's it. Right, so we're getting there. This is now pulled out of the way, and we just got a couple more T10s there, or E10, sorry, and another one there to take this out of the way. I'm going to do that now. Because, not that you need to, but because I'm doing the heater plugs like I keep saying, it's just going to be easier to put the rocker cover down when you don't have to kind of bend it around here. And look, I have to take it off anyway. And you'd have to take that off to take the rocker cover off anyway. So, you know, look, it's just as easy to take that off, even if you're not doing the heater plugs, to be honest with you. And then, once I've done that, I should now be able to get to, yeah, look, see, I can get to that bolt now. Once I can get to that bolt, that means this won't be hitting that, and I can pull this away. And the reason why I need to pull that away is, you see here, this is one of the guide pins for the timing chain guide, and just there, you can see it, is the other one. So you just need a special hollow tube. You can make it. I made one a long time ago. I can't find the one I made, but I'll make another one. And so this can be pushed out the way to about here, and it'll allow me to get to that pin there. And then once that's out of the way also, it'll allow me to get to this bolt in here a lot easier. So I'll just quickly do them few little bolts off camera, and then we'll continue. Oh look, we can see the heater plugs. Mercedes Engineering. Now this might shock people out there, but be very careful when you take these off, because you can break the connection, because they do get very brittle. And I know that's going to shock people, Mercedes quality and all that, and German engineering, but just be very careful. Long nose pliers I tend to find work the best, and very slowly, doing it one-handed is a bit awkward. Let me try and do it on this one, maybe a bit easier. And very slowly lever it up, oh, like that. Now, they do have a tendency to get brittle and break. So let me just get all them off, out the way. I'm not going to change them yet. I'm going to do the chain first, but I just want to get the... well, I might actually do them now, because at least then it means I can finish this video, because technically I'm filming all this together, and I will be releasing it in parts. I will be releasing it in one full video, but I'll also be releasing how to do the injectors, how to do the heater plugs, how to do the water pump, and so on and so on and so on. Right, hopefully you can see. You can just kind of see the tips of them there. Now, these are quite heavy glow plugs, and what I mean by that is when you kind of feel the weight of them, they are quite heavy. Now, they are very expensive, 40 euros each. But again, I don't really like mention prices because every time I do, oh, I can get them cheaper where I'm from, but you know, it's just the usual stuff. But anyway, they're quite, as regards glow plugs glow, I must glow, get it? Glow, as regards glow plugs glow, they do look kind of sexy. They are on the sexy side. So, just have to be careful. Once you take out the common rail there, they are fairly handy to get to. It's going to be an 8mm you're going to need. You're going to need a long reach 8mm. Now, you can get a long reach 8mm like this, but some long reach 8mm, the socket part only goes to there, and this won't fit in. So you're going to need a deep long reach. That is kind of important. And hopefully these come out all right. There's never a guarantee. And I've done videos on how to take them out before, and sometimes they squeak, and people was telling me you should put WD-40 on them, that will stop it. Once these threads get carboned up, WD-40 is not going to penetrate. WD-40 isn't a penetrator, and I keep telling this to people. It was designed by NASA for the rockets to stop moisture getting on them, so they didn't get as heavy. That's what it was designed for. Now, just because something's designed for something doesn't mean it can't be used for other things. For example, super glue, the reason why it sticks your fingers good together, because it was designed in the war, World War II, I believe, maybe even World War I, and when people used to get big, massive cuts on them, you know, they literally needed to put the guts back in, so they would super glue you together, get you off the battlefield. And then someone thought, actually, this is quite good. They must have dropped his Mrs. Best vase and didn't want her to know, and realised he had some super glue and tried to use it. But that's what it was originally designed for. Anyway, let's hope these come off. Oh, that feels like it's going to break. Oh, that feels horrible. Oh no. That really, truly feels horrible. Hear that? This is where experience comes in. Oh. If you're wincing watching this, I'm doing the same, believe me. But I'm telling you now, WD-40 is not going to do anything to this. We're okay. I can tell we're going to be okay with this one. But it's not a good sign when the first one's like this. Because you can bet your life the others are going to be just the same, if not worse. Now, again, there was nothing wrong with these. The car was starting perfectly. If there's anything wrong, you get an error code and the car will tell you number 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. But again, it's just because we are here. When you're doing it in the car, you just have to take off exactly what I've taken off. Yes, it's going to be a little bit more awkward to do it in the car, but we have the engine out. Now, there we go. So, and we get number 2 out okay. That felt a lot better. Ridiculous to think there's like 160 euros just in glow plugs. But again, they're good ones. OEM spec, not from Mercedes, but OEM spec from the people that make them for Mercedes. Again, always good just to double check with the new ones just to make sure they're the same length. They are. I just put this on here. You won't necessarily have to do this because you're not going to have your injectors out. I just put that there to stop anything falling down. More of a safety thing. Number 3 is going to be a problem just because of where it is, unless I get a wobbly bar maybe. But might also just be able to put the socket on, which I can. This is why it's good to also to have loads of different ratchets. Can you see the angle of this ratchet? It's actually, the angle is like that. If you had a straight ratchet, you wouldn't be able to get in here. If you're going to buy ratchets with the highest tooth count and buy ones with floppy heads. I personally don't like the ones that lock into position because, you know, you might not have it in the position you want it. You could be in between the locks, if that makes sense. So I just prefer to have one that's not. When you don't have ones that are not, unfortunately, you can get a bit of a floppy head. And it's not good having a floppy head now, is it? Now we're okay with the first 3. I tend to find it's either the first one, the third one, or the last one that you have a problem with. Now I don't mean 1, 2 or 3, I just mean whichever one you happen to start. You could start at number 2, but that's my experience. Oh, I knew it was going to be in the way. I mean, look at this for a design. The fuel filter is in the way to get the heater plug. Oh, maybe I can just get it out. Just ridiculous. And there we go, number 3. And now, number 4. Same again, I can't use the extension. I can use. Oh, now. That's a lot tighter than all the others. We're okay. There's a feeling you get, and it just comes down to experience. You can tell if something's going to break, and it's a feeling you get. Now you do have to be careful because this is a lot longer, nearly twice the length of a normal 1/4 inch ratchet. So if you're used to a smaller ratchet and then you come onto a longer one, you're going to put a lot more torque and you won't realise you're doing it. So you need to be used to your ratchets. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it's true. It's just a feeling you get. Because the other problem is you can get a ratchet like this. There's another one of my ratchets, and again, look, another floppy head, but this is extendable. And it's a completely different feel from here till it is there. So it's something you have to get used to. And right, there we go. The biggest problem with heater plugs, and I know people are going to say, oh, you should put anti-seize on this, you should do this, you should do that, blah, 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 blah. That's not necessarily your issue. I find that there's certain cars that they're just going to seize in no matter what, and really no matter what you put on it. By the time you put some anti-seize on this, by the time this is start becoming an issue, it's just not going to be there. You know, we're talking years and years in the future, and you're going to have other issues with water sitting there. Stuff like that isn't going to solve it. The biggest problem, in my opinion, with heater plugs is people over tighten them. These things, they really do not go on tight. These particular heater plugs are anywhere from 10 to 12 Newton meters, which is like, you know, hand tight. Really, they're not tight. And when people put them in too tight, that's when it becomes an issue, not anything else. Normally, there's obviously, it's like everything, there's exceptions to everything, but just bear that in mind. This one's going to be a bit tricky. There we go, I'll get that in. Now again, hand tight them down. Depending if they're really bad coming out, I would put, you know, something down there just to clean the threads, but these really wasn't a problem. So screw them down by hand. Then you know you're not going to cross thread them. These two are going to be a bit more tricky because I can't quite get in like I can on the first two. And what I can't really show on this video is kind of putting everything back together, because I'm not going to be putting this back together for a while because I've got to do timing chains and everything. So if you're watching this video just because I'm doing the heater plugs, there's also going to be videos on how to take the engine out, how to do the timing chain, how to do the full service on the automatic gearbox, how to do water pumps, how to do basically everything. So if you're watching this video thinking, geez, you're just taking the engine out just to do heater plugs, no. Right, so just put them all in. And then 10 newtons, which again I'm going to do, and I know people, yes, I do the torque wrench, and you know, the torque police are always at you. It's like anything, you do it long enough, you don't need it. Anything headwork, all the timing chain stuff I'll be using torque wrench, but I'm just going to use, there you go, click. Did you hear that click? Did you hear that? Ready? Click, did you hear that? There you go. Perfect. There we go. So obviously now you'd put the common rail back, you'd put everything else back, put your injector lines back, and your heater plugs are done. Put your electronic connections back, and there we go. Boom! Heater plugs sorted. And when you put an electrical connection back, you'll hear, hopefully you can hear this now, a good click. There you go, hear that click, and then just give it a little bit of a rattle, just so you know they're all in. And then we can put the common rail back on, put the cable ties back on, and we're all good to go. It's just as well we are replacing everything. You can see the water pump, it's not particularly leaking, but I mean it's kind of weeping, you know, you can see the rocker cover gasket, you can see is leaking, but we're replacing that, so that's all good. One thing I did forget to do was take the bloody engine oil out. So I've just drained the engine oil. Someone's been at this sump plug quite badly, look. We're sealing it, so see if I can get a new one of them quickly enough. Not the end of the world, but if I can, I will. So just tighten that back. Things like sump plugs, you want to tighten it back straight away because you'll forget. Next thing I'm going to do is do the rock cover, get the rock cover off. Another thing you want to do is just take the two bolts off the fuel lines here. So one here and one there and there. I've just taped them to this again to remind you. But now you can see, look, you can see that? So I can move that out of the way and I can get to that bolt nice and handy. So, rock cover next. Right, rocker cover, T30 Torx. Is it T30? I thought so, yeah, T30. Always a good thing to do before you put any electrical, air ratchet, electric, whatever, just make sure you're going the right way, especially for this. I could have screwed that the wrong way and snapped it, or even broke the stud. This one. They will stay in the rocker cover, so it's quite good. You don't really get them mixed up. Can be a bit to separate though. She's well down. Now what am I doing? Ooh. See, just not concentrating properly. And again, There was no harm done. I wasn't levering hard, just a small little screwdriver just to see. And again, it still needs doing. So no harm, no foul, but never go hard on anything because you just don't know. Something's still up there. Not that one. Not that one. That one. Now we can see the chain, and again, chain wasn't bad. We're not changing it. We're not chaining it because it was bad. Preventive maintenance. I can't even talk. And yes, we've got new gaskets, new everything. But a good thing about this is the engine looks clean. A little bit of dirt there, but again, nothing major. The chain isn't loose. I'm going to show you how to time this up properly, because I've seen a few videos online and I haven't seen one person mention yet that there is actually, they just turn it to top dead center by the bottom pulley, and then you put something down this #1 cylinder, and then they lock it off. But these cams can move. When you loosen them, they can actually move, and they could be slightly off. And I haven't mentioned anyone showing on the actual cam here, there is a mark, and on the rocker there's also a mark. So you have to line up both marks. I haven't seen anyone mentioning that yet, which to me is just crazy. There is lines in the cams, so sometimes you could say, well, the timing tool wouldn't fit in if they're not lined up, which is technically true, but it's still good to mention that these lines are here, because if someone's trying to put them, why isn't it lining up? They might not know why it's not lining up, and then they might turn the engine a bit too far. For example, let's say they're both off. Someone turns the engine too far and then locks it. Well, then your timing's completely out. They might just think, oh, it's a couple of mil off the bottom where it says OT, and you know, it's not really a big deal. Where yes, it's a big deal. So I'm going to show you exactly where their marks are. And like I said, I haven't seen anyone mentioning it yet, which to me is just crazy. But what I will do is, we will just cover that engine. Well, actually, I'll show you the engine first, then I'll cover it up. So look, nice and clean. It's actually really nice. To turn the light on, see if that's any better. It is a bit better. See, there's a few little bits, but overall, nice and clean. So it's a good indication that it's been, you know, serviced reasonably regular. You can never be 100% sure. See what they'll have to recut the valves or the injector seats. That's not a big deal. Chain looks good. Again, you know, really doesn't feel like it's worn or anything like that. But look, we're replacing it because you might as well. And I've seen people say, even online in forums and everything, because what I like to do is when I do a big job like this, I like to go online and see what people have done, and then if I think they've missed something, I will then, you know, really make sure I show it in my video. Just like the timing marks, I haven't seen anyone mention it, and little things like that. And I just like to, you know, just to go a bit above and beyond, because the information isn't really out there, and there's no one showing you how to do this properly. But I have seen people cutting this chain and then putting the new one on and spinning the engine, which, yes, technically, look, you can do it, and you don't have to take the engine out to do that, but it's ridiculous, because the teeth wear on the sprockets, the guides wear and break. So it's not just the chain. Now, if it was just the chain that wears and everything else never wears, I'd say okay, but that's not the case. The chain wears a little bit, the sprockets wear a little bit, and all together makes a huge difference. One on its own, not necessarily, but all together makes a huge difference. So you put a brand new chain on old worn sprockets, it's just going to destroy the chain, and then it's going to break the guide. So look, if you're going to do the job, do it properly. You know, it'd be like, honestly, it'd be just like getting a ball tire and you know, the old remolds you could get, and imagine just doing half the thread. So you leave 50% of the tire with brand new threads and 50% slick. You know, it's going to be rattling. It's going to be just look. It's just pointless, in my opinion. So just do it bloody right. So what I need to do now is take off this cover, because you can just see down there we have a couple of bolts which are holding on this cover. So this one has to come off first, and also remember we have to take that one just hiding off down there as well. Then, you know, we can remove the bottom cover. And like I said before, look, the chain is just kind of here. This is leaking a little bit. We will reseal that. And then down here then is just all gears, essentially. So I'll show you that once we get it off. Right, so remember we've got one bolt down here. That one happens to be an E12, and it's best to use a wobbly bar, because you just get that extra little bit of angle. Just see, that's there on. Another extension on there, and oh, what is going on here? Slipping. It's not good. It's not good. Wobbly extension is maybe not quite enough wobble on it. Oh, right. I don't know why that isn't giving me enough. Let me get this off here first. Turn that light off, I don't need the light on. I know you kind of can't see what I'm doing, but let me get this off. A bit more room. Hopefully there'll be a bit more room. And we can just get that socket on squarer, because that will cause us a huge problem if we don't. No. That's better. See, a few more seconds. See, can you see? Oh, you actually can't see. Now, look at that. And there we go. The rest are going to be E10. Again, put everything to one side, or in with everything, so you don't lose it. What I really do like about Mercedes, and I've only seen Mercedes to do this, maybe other car brands do, see this gasket here. Now especially, it's not too bad when you're out, when the engine is out, but when you're in, trying to hold that gasket and screw them bolts in at the same time is really difficult. They have these little dowel, these little plastic pins that keep the gasket in, look. I mean, how cool is that? It's awesome. Now you can really see these two pins that I was talking about, and I will also, look, you can see these two bolts here, which is lined up with that one, which we need to take off to get the bottom cover off, which again is going to be E12s. Oh. Right, T45. So just so you know, the longer ones go around the ring and the shorter ones go in the middle. Right, we got it off. Just the lever bar. I took off the dipstick, just a 10mm, the automatic gearbox dipstick, or the holder. Just a few lever bars, and hopefully now, yeah. is now off. Get it all fixed up. There we go. Leave all the bolts in there. And now you can see the Mercedes chain system, which I know people are going to think is stupid. And as regards the maintenance thing, okay, but as regards higher revving engines and more smoothness and all that, this is what this is all about. You got your crankshaft, you got the high pressure fuel pump there. This is obviously our bottom of our chain. These are our guides. So this is where our chain goes. Again, like I said, doesn't particularly look too bad. I've certainly seen worse. But there it is. What I will do is, when I'm putting the cover on, I'm going to take a few of these bits off or just move them out of the way, because I've got to reseal this cover. You can see where you've got to seal it. I'll show you in the back of the cover. You've got to seal all around here, because obviously the last thing you want is for it to be leaking. Right, as you can see, we are good to go. It's all cleaned up. What I'm going to do now is I'll show you this thing in a minute. I couldn't find my other tool, but it doesn't really matter. A socket and a long bolt will do, but we'll sort that out in a second. So what I got to do now is set the timing. Now, I got this timing tool from Irish Garage Supplies. This just does the top end of the engine. So in other words, just the top end. If you want to do anything with the bottom end and the Lancaster shaft, you have to get a different kit. But you only really have to worry about the Lancaster shaft if you are doing anything with the bottom crank. We're not doing any of that. So this set is good enough for us. What we do is we've got two locking pins for the cams, but we've got this little gadget here, which is brilliant. It allows us to turn the bottom pulley, because you can see the bottom pulley the way it's designed, so this fits on and it allows us to turn it. But what it also does, if you haven't got a big impact, it also allows you to hold that and undo each one of these. See that? But anyway, what we need to do now is we need to turn this until we get our original marks onto here. That's our timer mark where my finger is. So I'm going to turn this until we line up the OT. You can just see it there. Can you see it? It says OT. Then we'll double check to make sure cylinder 1 is in line, and then I'll show you the original marks that's on there. Right, I've just cleaned that. You can see where it says OT and 340. So we're just going to keep... Try and do this one-handed. It's quite difficult. Turn it in the proper direction, because you don't want to make the timing belt slip, or the timing chain, should I say. So we now need to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh no, I've gone too far. What a tit. I'm going to have to go all the way around now. Don't be tempted to go the wrong way, because especially now there's no real tension on the timing chain because the engine's not starting. You don't want it to slip the timing. So that there now, camera's not showing, but believe me, that there is on. Right, we are on the OT mark. You can't quite see, but believe me, turn the light on. Now you can see OT. I'm just going to mark it as well with some Tipex. But now, what you can see, and like I said, I've seen no one talk about this. This is the timing belt mark here, or the timing chain mark here, but also it has to line up with this mark here. If it doesn't, because these cams can twist, you can be off on one or the other. No one talks about it, but granted, this can only kind of go in one way because of the flats, the way it's designed. It can only go onto the flats. It actually goes this way once you take the cap off. But what I mean is, it's always good just to check, because you could be off, and if you're off, you'll know that that could be an issue with the engine originally. I've marked the front pulley, but I'm not going to show you that because I can't be asked to go back round to the engine. And I've marked these too. Now it is a bit OTT, but at least you can see if anything moves. The top cams are not going to move because they're going to be completely locked into place, but you also want to make sure nothing moves down here. Now it shouldn't do, but you just never know. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take off these two, And be very careful, you don't want to over tighten these. These aren't down a lot. And like I said, you also don't want to get them mixed up. Right, I've got one in place. And again, you want to make sure you put the cap in the same place. You don't want to rotate it 180 degrees. So in my case, both letters are pointing to the left as I'm looking at it. It's a T30 torque. So move that directly to the back like that. Get my timing tool, slide it down. Make sure they're lining up. That one in. Point not lining up. And there we go. Now let me just screw them both down, and I'm going to bring you around to the front, and then we can actually do the timing chain. Right, okay, it's all locked up, all them bolts are in. Like I said, I've also timed that, or I've also marked that. 27mm socket for the tensioner. Get that off now. They're quite long. Put the new tensioner, soak it in oil. Again, not everyone talks about that either. I was wearing gloves all day, and now when I'm really getting oily, I decided not to wear them. How clever am I? We get all this new with the kit. There we go. Put that there for the minute. Chain should be now loosey-goosey. What we've got to do is got to undo this guide pin, this guide pin, and this guide pin, and we do it with a socket, any sort of tube, anything basically, you know, hollow in the middle. Once I start screwing this in now, I'm going to pull this pin out, so I'm just going to set the camera up, clean my hands, and show you what that looks like. Right, so all I did, well, I'll show you once I get this out. But normally you wouldn't have a tool. You ratchet, you get me ratchet. Typical, the only ratchet I put back is the one I bloody need. Now what I need to make sure is I've just got this definitely centred. Got the wrong torque as well, I need a T35, and I've put it, oh that's dropped on the floor, doesn't matter, so I need a T35, T40, actually there you go, T40, so even better. You have to be careful with these, make sure you get that, so definitely in the middle, because if you get that where the tube or whatever is hitting the pin, you're just going to break it. No, that is seized. That's not good. Sometimes what you can also do is get a longer bolt and then put a nut on the inside of it and screw it to pull it, but this should do the same thing, because all we're doing is essentially, but it's not. Ooh, that doesn't feel good. Not happy. It's not happy. I wonder, it moved a little bit, but I can just tell it's not happy. This is going to be too big for this one, but I'll just try this one just so I can show you how it's supposed to work. That doesn't want to screw in there now. Ah, it's just going to be one of them. As soon as I turn the camera on, you just turn out to be a nightmare. Is this how it's going to be? But again, these are the real things that can happen that not everyone shows you. I might have to slightly change this in a minute, but we'll see. Yeah, I'll make sure I definitely want to move either. Right, let me change this setup. I'll see if I can find my old tool. Right, unfortunately, these pins are really seized. Got one out, so what we ended up doing was, I cut some grooves in there, which lines up with a little slide hammer we've got. There, you can see. And then, we use this slide hammer to take it out, so we're going to film the top one. But it really is tight, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do, same thing again, screw it in by hand. This way you're going to at least see it come out, which is a lot better than having something in the way. Oops, and that's screwed in. So you get the slide hammer, put that in there, hold it with that. Now, there we go, look, you can see the pin come out now. Boom, boom. Now guys, if you think about it, this action, right, let's face it, this action we're all good at. So you're not going to have an issue with doing this, okay? And there we go. Pulls the pin out. It's true. We're experts at it. Absolute experts. And there we go. That's the pin out. I could have done it with that, but it just felt too tight. From the ones I've done before, never felt that tight. So, and the thing is, with a socket or a tube in the way, you just can't see what's going on. But now, the top guide should be out. And there we go. So I'll do the other one. Might as well do it on camera because might as well take that one off before I try it. Boom! There we go. Third one is out. And now we don't have any issue with them being broke, but they can be. So this one goes like that, in like that. E14. This one is a right hand thread. So be careful with that. Be very careful with that. Both are right hand thread. Now don't worry about the pulleys moving because we've locked the timing. Right, here's our new chain kit. We've got our new chain here, we've got our new sprockets, we've got our new guide, and we've got our new tensioner. This is the old one. I've tried to kind of line them up and it's hard to see, but definitely looking, zoom in. The old chain, believe me, I've just kind of done it. The old chain is about a mil longer than the new one, so it's definitely stretched a little bit. But the sprockets are definitely worn more. Look at the edges of the sprockets. See there, you can see them compared to these ones. So yeah, it's definitely more wear on the sprockets that's visible, that's thingy. Anyway, what I gotta do is I gotta install these now. Right, hopefully you can see. That's what I'm gonna do first, is grab the chain and the sprockets kind of together like this. Put it down. And like I said, remember These are right hand threads, or left hand threads should I say, sorry. So opposite to what you think. And the torque on these is 55 newtons and then 90 degrees. I'm going to leave them loose though. I'm not going to tighten anything yet. Get it there. Didn't put the bloody guide in, did I? Right, so the top's on. We'll just put the bottom on. Like I said, I'm not going to tighten any of them yet. So this can only go on one way. Hope you can see. It physically can't fit this way. If you was to try and put it this way, it physically can't fit. So it can only go on one way, which is in there, which is obviously a good thing. You might not be able to see, but it physically doesn't fit that way. When you spin it around the other way, the holes line up and it physically fits. So if you're unsure, all you need to do is get the little pin I've seem to have misplaced at the minute. Put the pin in, see it's in there, and I can see that it lines up with the bottom one, so I know that it's right, because like I said, it physically, it can't go wrong. So that's handy. I'll just see if I can show you that a bit better. See, it's stopping, it's completely jamming up the chain there. You can see that, and it won't go in. So I've just put the bottom one in. What we can do now is we can tap the top one home. Bottom's out, you can hear the tone change as you're hitting it in. Then this one. Don't be tempted to hit these pins without screwing this in, because you'll flatten the top and they won't go in all the way. And then when you need to take it out, or if anything happens you need to take it out, you won't be able to, because the threads will be damaged. There we go. Same with this one. It really can't go in wrong. It will only go in one way. This one's obviously only got one pin. So, yeah, okay. Also, be careful with these. The reason why I didn't take these out when I first took them out is because you actually can't. See, they hit that. The only way you can take these bolts out is by undoing them. So just bear that in mind. Pin. Come on, Mr. Pin. Come on. There we go. One is in. And now once the tensioner goes in, you'll see what it does to the chain, see? See how it... Get the new tensioner out. Here is the new one. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to soak this in oil before I put it in. And this is 80 Newton meters, the torque spec on that. Right, so that's all in. This is the messy bit because it's going to be dripping everywhere. But just good. And 80 Newton meters for that fella. So 80. There we go. Boom. So these are 55, but remember they're left-hand thread. 55 and then 90 degrees, so 55 newtons. Right, so we've got the new tensioner in the bucket of oil and we need to tension that to 80 newtons. Now, I also had to go and get my torque wrench because I didn't realise that they had a torque wrench here from the 1940s that would only go one way. Certainly not a modern day torque wrench. That wouldn't be allowed in this modern world with all these snowflakes because it only goes one way, you know what I'm saying? So I had to get mine because obviously I need to tighten these two cams properly and the other torque wrench wouldn't work going backwards, it only worked going forwards. So let's get that tight, then we need to do this to 80 newtons. Again with the chain, don't worry about it, you can't, once you've got everything locked you can't go wrong. It's going to feel really loose at first. Once you start screwing this in, the chain tension will tighten, which it has done now. As you see, it's quite tight now. And because the top pulleys are still loose, which is vitally important, they will spin without the cams spinning because they're locked. It doesn't matter what position these are in because the cams are locked, they can be in any position. So now all I've got to do is just put 80 newtons on that and then we can get to the cams. Now, let's see. I'm doing this upside down, it's a bit awkward for me. There we go. 80. Now what we've got to do is these two top cams have got to do 55 degrees and then we've got to do, 55 newtons and then 90 degrees. Right, 55 newtons. If I can do it out of the way of the camera, I'm not in the way of the camera. Remember, like I said, it's left-hand thread. So 55 newtons first. Hope you can see that. You'll hear it beep if you can't. There we go. Drop other side. That one feels different to that one. We'll see what the 90 degree brings in store to us. I don't like the feel of that, but maybe it's just the way. So we'll go 90 degrees. Now I'll just lift this up a little bit more just in case it wasn't doing it. We now got 90 degrees. Perfect, that felt good actually. Go again. 90 degrees. Perfect. So, they're now tightened properly. It did feel a lot better. Chain's still good. That's tightened properly. So all we've got to do now is put the cover back on. Make sure you clean everything, obviously. Clean both sides of the cover. Be careful of these. What you can sometimes do with these, and now I'm going to say this, it won't work, you can wedge them against the cam bolts like that. So just push them up and they kind of wedge against the cam bolts. That way there's nothing down here. So when you put the cover on, you're not going to foul on this and the cover's going to go on straight away and you're not going to destroy the seal. So yeah, let me just get all that cleaned up and then put it on. Right, let's turn this bad boy and make sure, where is that gone? And make sure everything's okay. So we've got our locking tools off. We're going to turn this at least 2 times. So 2 full revolutions is going to be 4 times I see that mark, if that makes sense. So you'll see that mark 4 times, which is essentially 2 revolutions. Just take that out. I'll put that back. And then once I see it twice, as long as I see these 2 top marks line up here, which I showed you before, and I put the screwdriver back down, and it's top dead center, and we hear no bangs, it doesn't lock up, we know we are good. So let's just, I wasn't even looking at it, that's one. Let's actually look at the cam. So this is coming up to 1 full revolution, as I can see from the mark at the top. Injectors are out, that's why it's nice and easy to turn. Now it's 1.5. And we're coming up to 2 now. Mark. That's straight. And there we go. Boom, sorted. Now we can clean the cover. Now we can get the timing cover back on and clean it and seal it and do all that. A thing that you can do if you're unsure where the bolts are is take them out one by one and put them on here. But again, you can't really go wrong because there's only 1 long bolt which goes here. There's 3 bolts that goes across, which we have on the engine. There's a couple of bolts that go in behind the starter motor, which we have on the engine. And then all the bolts inside here, they're all the same size. So you can't really go wrong. But you can just lay them out like this on the floor or a piece of cardboard, you know, to get everything. I'm just going to clean all this up now and make sure this is all good. I'm going to also replace this seal. You wouldn't believe the price of this seal. Where's the new one? This, 70 euros. 70 euros just for that. From Mercedes. Wow. I've got it cleaned up. I've taken out the old seal. So we're going to replace that because you always tend to damage it when you take it out, but you don't want to reuse them anyway. Now, as regards the holes and the kind of the sealer that's left in them, I find a screwdriver the same thickness as the hole, and if you spin it like that, you get a couple of different screwdrivers for the different holes. Spin it like that, you'll find, see that? It kind of cuts it all out, and then what we can do is we can reseal all that and shove it back on the engine. I'm using this stuff. It's in a tube. I just find it's easier to control to put on because you can basically control the flow, and I just find it's easier. Nice and consistent. Did you go? There we go. Now we need to get this on the car. It's normally easier with two people because they can move the pipes out of the way. I'm on my own, but we'll see what we can do. This is a very important part of the job, and I might get in the way of the camera because this needs to be right and go on and not catch before it goes on like that. Perfect. That's good. Line it up. Like dowels. There we go. It's simple, but a very important part of the job because you need this to line up. And there we go. Let me just move the camera so you can see a bit better. I'll put a few more bolts in first. And now the cover is back on, but do not tighten anything until you've got all the bolts in place. Now granted, I didn't have that one in place, but everything else is in place, but still you should do it with all the bolts in place, because if you tighten one of them, there is a bit of movement and the others won't go in. Even if they do go in, you're going to end up damaging the threads of the engine block basically, which you don't want to do. So I'm just going to go around now. They're all nicely evenly tightened. They're not tightened properly. Just going to go around now by hand and tighten all them, and then we're good to go. If you remember, we had an oil leak here, and I actually thought it was this part, but it wasn't. It was the cooler part, and you can see where it is. You can just see kind of the build-up of crap there around the edge, and then the gasket. Where is it? Gasket's all rusty and all lifting, look. So yeah, kind of got an oil leak fixed for kind of free. It's good, isn't it? Just all peeling off. Nightmare. So I'm just going to get all this back on. No point me filming all that. It's just screwing up them bolts, putting the intake back in, screwing all that up. Then I can put the rock cover the rock cover back on, put the injectors back in, you know, have everything ready. And there's no point doing that back in the car. Might as well put all the injectors, all the wiring harnesses, absolutely everything, bolt it on in here now. It's just easier. I took the injectors out as I was taking the engine out because it was just a bit easier, just in case they were seized and the engine was warm. But putting them back in really doesn't make that much difference. Well, it's easier for me to put them in now, I think, rather than the engine. That's what I mean. Right, what we want to do is we want to get this engine sealed as quick as possible. Even though I've been putting rags and stuff over it, you still want to be getting it sealed as soon as you can. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a new gasket on. This was slightly leaking, not bad, but slightly leaking. So I need to get this off, which of course. Oh no! It's the gaskets holding these in. Damn it! Of course, normally they just hold themselves a bit, just like that one. That one's wide. That's what they should be doing. Why aren't these holding themselves in? We will sort it when we put the new one on. That one's holding it, so normally they all do. Anyway, Mercedes. I've done one of these before and it's all held itself in. I'm sure it was a long time ago, I can't remember exactly. What I want to do, give that a clean, brake clean, and then just take all these off just so when I blow the air line they don't fall out. So brake clean, just all in there, nice and clean. Now the new one. So, just got to figure out this way. There's little tabs in certain places of it to kind of line you up. These seals really, they're kind of, once you take the rock cover off, you have to replace them. You know, they do kind of last, but it's just one of them things that you just want to replace every time you take it off. I'm not saying you can't get away with not doing that, but this one's not too bad because you can do this on the engine. You know, it's a bit of stripping, but it's not the worst. Some of them, no matter what, you just want to replace because of where they are. There's another little tab. There's another little tab. It sticks up a little bit because it kind of crushes itself into and makes a seal. But what you want to do now is you want to put these in now and push them rings over. Not put the rock cover in and try and push these into the ring because you just don't know what you're doing, you can't see. So you just want to make sure you push them up and it holds themselves in. Because you can see if you've twisted the seal or it's not sealed properly, because if it's not, you then start screwing it down and you could cross thread something, you could break something. It's just not worth it. Here's the old seal. It just doesn't feel, it's okay, but it just doesn't feel as flexible as that one. That's what happens to them, they just go hard and crack. Lose their flexibility. See, hopefully you saw that. That was a great, as I lifted that up, it went in, but this lifted up and flicked over like that. If it was on the engine, turned over, I wouldn't have been able to have seen that. And I would have put it on, it would be leaking, and the chances are I would have damaged the seal at the same time. So it means I have to get a new seal, take everything off. And remember, especially on this, you have to take the injectors out to get this off. So these are the ones on the bloody floor. Just double check. It's all in and home. Let's put it on the engine. Good. It's good just to rest it down first. Make sure they kind of line up the bolts. And there we go. Again, you can just look around. Not sure why that switched itself off. Hopefully I got what I was supposed to get on it. I'll have to double check the video. But I'm just looking now to make sure the seal isn't twisted or caught anywhere. All looks good. Just tighten that down now. Okay, it makes sense now to do the air filter because I've got the rocker cover on, as you can see. And the easiest way to do it by hand is just go around and slowly tighten each one of them up, and then just go around again and tighten them down each time a little bit more. But don't tighten down one all the way and then try and get it all tightened. Just put all of them in a couple of threads and then go around it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. Now, in Mercedes' ultimate wisdom, they decided to put the air filter or the ECU on top of the air filter. When it's like this, really easy to get to. Once this pipe is on, and then here, a lot more awkward to get to when it's in the car as well. So T20 Torx, it's the same as the fuel filter or the diesel filter on the Volkswagens. And then this comes off. And again, just the price of everything. I'm not going to go through the prices, but just prices of Mercedes parts is just redonkulous. Now, get this out. It's not bad, but it's not great either. But I've seen a lot worse. Pull out the plug. And there was supposed to be, make sure you get it the right way as well. This one goes, there's a deeper hole than this side, and it has to go here. And there was supposed to be a little bolt but it's not there. Right, and now we've done that, ECU can go back on. See, the thing is, it's not that you have to kind of take the ECU or where the ECU is to do the filter, which I still think is stupid. It's more the fact that this plug has got damaged, and I'm guessing it's got damaged because someone is doing this, you know, because this is a fairly regular thing, let's be honest, changing filters, especially the air filter. And that's more my issue with it. And you have to be so careful putting these back because you can bend these pins and do serious damage. It could have just been in a slightly better place. Now, whatever you do not do what I'm about to do and screw these down with a drill, because you will crack the housing so easy. But I'm not going all the way. I will finish it off by hand. Oh yes, I just said it on YouTube. I'm going to finish this off by hand. God, how many jokes have I done as regards that on this video? Now, I can start putting some of this back together. I'll just put that there because I haven't put the injectors back in yet. But at least now I can start kind of putting this back together because I've done all those few little bits. What I'm going to do is, just off camera, I'm just going to put back these few little bits. I'll show you putting back the injectors because we've got a couple of new seats and stuff like that. So I'll show you all that, but I can do a lot just putting all this stuff back without filming it. Right, next thing we're going to do is the fan belt and the water pump. So 18mm 12-sided socket, which will loosen the tension, as you can see. If I do it the right way, it will. So there we go, tension of the fan belt. If you want to take a picture or draw it out so you know exactly which way it goes, you can, but we just need to slacken that off. And then get to the water pump. Get that off first, a bit tricky. Get a little hook in there. Be careful of this. Don't wanna. Oh God, this is the problem. That is just completely corroded away. That pipe. Great. Cracked, completely cracked, but we might have enough. Where does it go? Should be okay. So it's simple enough now, it's out. We've got, again, in Mercedes' ultimate wisdom, they have used the same type of Torx with the security bolt in as you get in like airbags and stuff like that. Like, it's a water pump, Mercedes. What are you at? Right, so it's a T30. And again, you're watching this video and you need to do this. Obviously, I've got the engine out. You have to be so careful because these Torx with the hole in, you can see that. They're so delicate It doesn't take much to break them. If these bolts are any way seized, you're in trouble. Someone's been in there before, used the wrong size. In the car, this would be a lot of a nightmare, to be honest. Let me get the longer T30. When it's out like this, it's obviously simple. When it's in the car, I tell you, something as simple as this will turn into a nightmare. So it's going to leak because I didn't get it all out of the engine, just got it out of the radiator. But obviously, with us doing this job, either you're doing this only, you're going to be replacing all the coolant. So I wouldn't be surprised at that. Some people do get surprised. Why do you have to replace my coolant? Well, taking out the water pump. What if I could just catch it? Catch it on all the engine and all the crap that it goes down. And then blocks up things and doesn't cool your engine properly. Or to try and save a few quid. There we go. Again, look, it wasn't bad. It was working. Oh. What's that? Something in there. Kids rattle. The new one, don't bloody do it. So, new seal, and I'm a firm believer if it's got a seal, use it. Don't use sealer. Famous last words, but oh, I said that. I'm just going to double check this. Make sure that's on, which it is. So new pump, new fan belt. Be sucking diesel soon. Hopefully. Put them all in before you tighten any of them. And this goes with anything with multiple bolts, even 2 bolts, because you can tighten something and there is a bit of leeway and a bit of movement, and you could tighten something and then you put the other bolts in. They might go in, you might think they're going in quite well, but they could be tight against the threads, and you could strip the threads when you come to do the final tight. Quite easy. Just snug them all in a star pattern like you would putting your wheels on your car. And now just go around, give them all a nice snug, and it's done. Just broke my mount of the camera. My phone's dangling. Anyway, it's always good. Just spin that. Make sure it spins, make sure nothing happens. See if I've got a good memory of how the new belt goes. I think I do. But do I? Or am I forgetful? Right, which one's going to be the easiest to put this around? I think that's right. We'll try this pulley. I don't know if it's going to be the easiest, but we'll give it a shot. Sometimes the smaller pulleys are easier. There we go. Sweet. So new fan belt and water pump, kind of two jobs at once. Oh, I got this pipe back on as well. I just nipped the bit off that was a bit bad. It's not a water pipe, but yeah. I did check all the pulleys, which is what you're supposed to do. Make sure none of them are rattling or anything like that, and they all seem to be fine. So yeah, there we go. Right, we're getting there. I kind of like, what's the word? Pride myself. I like to, you know, make everything like factory or better. So I put all the cable ties back originally where they were, because you can see the marks on there where they were. That one was actually broken, so I've replaced it. Everything is clipped back into its place, either the same way it was or better or more clips or whatever the case may be, just so nothing rubs, nothing, you know, everything's there and it's all good. So what I got to do now is, we've basically got all that in. I've just got to put the cooler back on, a few more bolts. I've got to clean, where is it? Yeah, pulp. I've got to clean that. Just going to use, you know, wire brush, air, just you know, it's just to get all that crap off. I'll do all that off camera. It's not, you know, bolt everything back, and then we'll I'll turn the camera back on when we're ready to put the injectors back in. And then I'm debating, I'm not sure yet, it depends whether to put the gearbox on. Oh, I also need to show you the seal on, because what I'm going to do is, now this one might go on quite handy, but I've got a little trick that I use if they don't go on with a plastic bottle. Now again, you have to have the plastic bottle the same size as what you're trying to put it in. Sometimes that could be difficult. This one might go on fairly easy, I don't know, but I'll show you that. Few more connections to tighten up at the back here, this to tighten up, and then yeah, then we're getting there basically. Right, bolt management is very important when you're doing a job like this. I've done lots of jobs like this, and I'm going to say this, and I'm just going to regret saying this because I know something's going to go wrong. I'm pretty good with, you know, knowing where bolts go. I showed you in the beginning, or the first part of this video, I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, you know, where you put all the bolts in boxes and stuff like that. You can do it that way, and I do it that way in certain times, but I just know from experience kind of which bolts go where. Even if I've never worked on an engine before, it's just, you kind of get used to it. But what I mean is, because I'm putting all these E10 torques back all over the place, they're all E10 torques that I've taken off for the cooler, for the pipelines, even for this. Look at that, look how clean that is now, see? Isn't that nice? But to put that back on, which I've just showed you, which goes there and there, there's four bolts, but they're longer than the normal bolts. The smaller bolts will fit on, and you'll think they're okay, but they'll only grab by a couple of threads, and then it could cause an issue by pulling them out. So bolt management is very, very important. You'll see here what I'm talking about. See the different length in bolts? They will work, but just be aware of it. But look, clean! Right, and there we go, we've got it on. I remember working in another garage, and they were doing, I think it was an old Merc anyway. It was, there was a seal leaking at the back, and I remember him talking to somebody, because this guy thought he was brilliant. He's like, yeah, we've got to take the engine out just to do this seal, aren't we brilliant? You know, you can only bullshit for so long until you do a job like that. Taking an engine out isn't a big deal. Yes, it's time consuming and expensive, but it's not difficult. And you know, when you hear people like that just saying it is, It's like the people when you work on the old Citroens, how they say, you know, the Citroen mechanics say only they can do it. It's just bullshit. It's time consuming, it's expensive, but it can be done. And let's face it, there's a lot of vehicles out there, because I know people are going to say, oh, just do the timing chain, take an engine out, it's ridiculous. And in some ways, yes, but there's reasons why the timing chain is at the back. Because of smooth, anyway, look, we'll get into that in another video. But a lot of performance cars, now I know this isn't a Ferrari or Lamborghini or anything like that, but most of them cars, you have to take the engine out to do very, very simple things. You know, every 10,000 miles, you have to take the engine out of them things. They're designed to take the engine out. This is kind of designed to take the engine out, you know, so look, it's not really, it's more time consuming than a big deal, let's put it that way. Right, I think we are really close to getting the injectors back in, but what I am going to do, I'm going to quickly whip off that fella, change the oil filter. I'm not going to change the diesel filter yet. I'll do that when it's in the car. I want to start this first. That is the biggest problem actually with a job like this. Normally with a timing belt or a chain, anything like that, you can put the car, well with the chain you have to all put it back together, but with the timing belt you can put it back, you know, to start it, just to make sure it's all okay. You can even do it before you put all the water pipes in and everything. You can, you know, you can half put it back and start it to make sure it's okay. This, I can't do anything like that. I have to put it all back together, literally every single nut and bolt, to find out whether this starts or doesn't start or makes a noise or anything. So that's more the problem. And it's a big knock-on effect with this. And what I mean by that is, because this is an automatic, you have to drain the fluid. So then we have to do, we're doing the service on the automatic gearbox anyway, but you know, you have to do the service on the automatic gearbox. You have to do the engine oil. You have to, you know, it's knock-on effects. Like you have to take the injectors out, so you have to do all new seals. And, you know, it's a big knock-on effect just to do one job. The only jobs that really are not a knock-on effect was the fan belt and the water pump. We just did that for, you know, just to make sure it was all okay. But everything else is a knock-on effect. So that's where these jobs can kind of skyrocket, because it's not just a chain. If it was just a chain, you'd say, okay, but it's an automatic gearbox surface. It's this, it's that, it's blah, blah, blah. It's a big, you know, to do one job, you have to do 6 jobs. So 5, 1, 6. So that is more the issue, in my opinion, than actually, you know, taking the engine out. Right, old one, new one's in, new seals, and just be careful when you put it back, because it does say 25 newtons. These really don't need to be tight. People over tighten these, and worst case scenario, you'll break it, but otherwise you'll make it really difficult for the next person to get on who might break it, and it's not that person's fault then. So yeah, anyway, I think we're close to putting the seal on now. Right, hopefully you can see good, kind of in the way of me, but anyway. Yeah, right. What you have to be careful of is, it's not too bad with this one because it hasn't got a girdle spring, but sometimes they have a girdle spring, and when they can hop off, and sometimes they can be a nightmare to fix. As you can see, look, it's not pushing in with that. So in other words, the rubber part which is supposed to be in is pushing out. So what you can do is, I'll have to see if I can get a bottle first of this size. I've done this a few times, but now I'm showing it on camera, you can bet your life it's not going to work. So this is just a bit off the bottom of a bottle. It's kind of the right size, but it's not really. That might cause me a problem, because yeah. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut this again, because it's just, unless maybe, hold on, if we go in the other way. So if we put it in this way first, maybe. It's just going to be difficult now because I'm doing this on camera. And normally, oh, I knew it was going to do this because I'm fucking recording it. Give me a second. A couple of things making this difficult is I haven't cut it particularly well. And like I said, because I'm bloody recording it. But anyway, what you do is you push this in the seal first. You can see that. Obviously, it's bigger, well, the seal internally is smaller because it's got the seal on it. And then, this is just not going to work. Once you get it pushed in, that will... Give me a minute again. It just was not playing ball with me. So what I decided to do is cut it or slot it in the middle. This should then allow me to fold this internally in it like that and put it on at the same time, because that this way, and you do it like this, you push the seal in. Can be a bit tricky. Now, to be fair with this one, what I can really do, I can just get that with a thin screwdriver and just hit this in. These aren't really a problem. I just want to show you that this method does work if you get stuck with a seal. That, you know, because if you slip with the screwdriver, you're in trouble. So it was just really more to show you that this does work, even though at the minute it looks like it doesn't. But believe me, it bloody does. That's even that's done it there. There we go. Now, just caught there a little bit, but that's got 80% of it in. So, just very slowly go around with this now. But that got most of me in, which is good. So you can see it does work. Now, normally you don't have to cut it. You just put it on there and it slots on. But to be fair, it's the first time I actually cut it. And I think cutting it is actually better, because then you can slot it in. So yeah. Just want to make sure that that definitely is in. It is. Now we can gently tap. Literally just the weight of the hammer. And what you can do then is when you get it close, you notice I'm not pushing it near the seal, I'm pushing it on the outer edge where the metal is. Don't be tempted to try and put this seal in before you put the case on. So in other words, you put it in because you think it's easier. Technically it is easier, but you've still got this hassle then of trying to get it around there. But not only have you got that hassle, you've also got the hassle of all the silicone, sealer, whatever. So yeah, put this on last. And there we go. Brand new seal on. Sorted. Right, now for the flywheel, or the back plate, whatever you want to call it, because it's an automatic. Do have to be careful as such, because technically this is timed, and what I mean by that, you see them holes there, and can you see? Yeah, you can see the sensor just there. This can only go on one way, so you're okay. But if it didn't, you would be in trouble, because you would have to get it right, because otherwise the car wouldn't start. So yeah, T55 if I recall. What I am going to do is I'm going to turn the engine once I get this on to have the torque converter bolts directly on the bottom, so I don't have to, because again I don't know if I'm going to do it with the engine in or out, but once I have the bolts down here, at least I can get 2 bolts in fairly handy of the torque converter. Boom! Things you have to do to work on Mercedes, because Mercedes just likes to be different to everybody. So I was trying to cut the valve seats. I was going to cut 3 of them, put 3 injectors in and do the last one on camera. But I need a 15, but I've only got a 15, 19. Oh, come on. Focus. Anyway, I've only got a 15, 19. Focus, focus. There we go. And the 19 part is too big to go down here. So I'm going to have to, I put this onto the drill. I'm going to have to go to this, put it on here, spin that, spin the drill at the same time, obviously once the motor is running, to grind that down so it'll work. Happy days. Just, don't you love Mercedes? Does a nice job. Okay, my tool is modified. It's ridiculous. But I wanted to show you, that's one I haven't done. That's one I have done. That's one I have done. And this is one I've started at. Now, if the light... now, here we go. You can see half of it's cut and half of it's still the old colour. Can you see that? That's all one colour. And you can kind of see, when I get the camera angle right, you can kind of see how this bottom bit here is still half the colour, because it's just not cut all the way. And it's very simple. You just put the tool down and you twist it. You can put a little bit of grease on the end of the tool just to pick up the little bits, but there we go, look at that. Tiny bit more, but believe me, you know, they're very small bits. They don't really do anything. Once you blow it out with an airline, you're going to be fine. And there we go. That's all completely shiny now. So it's just this next one to do. Let me just blow that off with an airline first. So, blow that off. Blow that off. Airline is leaking. It's really annoying. Stop, there we go. I'm not pressing hard, just a little bit of pressure. Again, you can see that one's only half done. Bit more, and then we've got them all cut. And it's really one of them things that, look, if they're not bad, you can kind of, you don't have to go mental on it, and you can kind of get away with it. It's only if they've been leaking that they're really bad. It's like a, you know, it's like a head gasket. If you're replacing, or you're doing work on an engine, yes, you have to replace the head gasket, but you don't have to get the head skimmed if it was never warped. So similar to these, if it's not gone, it's only because of all the work I've done with this. That's the only reason I'm doing this. Normally I might not actually have cut them because they weren't bad. Well, the fact that they just weren't bad, but tiny bit more, and then we can put them on. We've got our new washers, and again, these are the washers, and they are special washers. They're kind of, it's hard to see on camera, but they're kind of a mushroom shape on both ends. So we're replacing all the washers with new ones. And the injector tool I was using was from Hobby Tools. It's a HU41004, and yeah, I'll have to send them pictures of my modification. Tell him it was expertly done on a lathe. Anyway, it's done. They are all cut. They are all shiny, 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 shiny. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to stick 3 injectors in, stick the pipes in, and I'll show you the last one, how I did it. Right, got 1, 2 and 3 in, fairly handy. So, oh sorry, 3, 4, 3 and 2. This is how they come, that's how they came out. So I'm now going to clean this, get all that old grease off, wire brush all of it, because it's a little bit, they're not bad, but you know, just wire brush everything. You can see here's the new seals, these are the old ones. You can just see how much the center holes have opened out compared to the newer one. So it's good to replace them anyway. We've recut everything, so it should be good. So just clean this now and get ready to install it. Okay, so it has been cleaned. You can see it's looking very shiny. Put some new grease on it. So this is really high temperature grease. There's no bits or anything in it like there would be in copper grease. Not cheap grease, but you kind of have to wonder, does this really work? I mean, these came out nice and easy, but I've greased injectors and cars and vans that are a nightmare, and they always seize, and they're still seized even with the grease. So I think it just really depends on the car, not so much the grease, to be honest. But anyway, so I've also greased the top slightly, just because what that will do is that will hold the washer on. See? So what we now need to do, get this back on and just set it down. Wow, can't believe that's just actually fallen. Unbelievable. The only one to do it, not a problem. I'll just lay it down flat, lower it that, and then I'll put the injector on top of it. All the others, not filmed, went down lovely. This one, oh, had to do something, didn't it? Had to do something different. Don't actually like the way it's sitting down. The washer's gone with it. Try that again. That's better. T47. And be careful, because you want to put them back in the same place anyway, because you don't know if they need programming, and if you haven't got the tools to program, if you put them back in the same place, well, you don't need to do anything because they're already pre-programmed. So there we go. Just got to put the 2 feed pipes on now, and then our engine is basically back together. Right, they're all in. Now just put a little bit of lube on the O-rings just to help them go in a little bit easier. And once you've got it all pushed in, remember, you see the white little line there I said at the beginning of the video, and just push that down and it's in. Hear the click, and now you can see the white line. So now you know that's definitely in properly. Right, took 3 of us to get it on. The issue we was having is the inverter wasn't in all the way, so we just couldn't get it on, because once the inverter's in, this just slides straight in. So the inverter was causing us a problem, but it's in. any of this stuff. Shouldn't do. Have to go up, yeah, hopefully. This is the white button. Ready? Yeah. Go on. Go on, go on. Go on, go on. Right, so I was having a great day getting all that put back together, then coming to do the exhaust, and the exhaust has got a lot of movement here, like a lot of different places you can put it, a lot of flexibility, you could say. And the exhaust was a mile off, like literally it was stuck up way here, there was no gap here, and it was about ½ an inch from there. And then I realised it was the top mounting bracket, which you can't see from the bottom. So what I had to do, which I'll show you now in a second, I had to take all the airbox, all the ECU and all that off just to get to the 3 bolts to undo this on the top to try and get it to move. Now I've got it to move, I've also put the top pipe on, because this is what certain people forget to put on, and you know, it just causes issues in the long run. So all the little clips and pipes are all back on. So now the exhaust line's up. So let me just get the bottom in. I can't tighten anything up until I get the bottom in, till I get the exhaust pipe all the way on, then I can tighten everything up. Just a nightmare for just at this now, a good few hours just for a stupid exhaust when I should be a lot further on. Frustrating. So I had to strip all this again, loosen all the brackets. This bracket is loose, but for some reason it's not moving, but it is loose. This bolt and the 2 bolts right in behind there. Turn the light on. You can see them, look, right there. There's so much play there, but now the full exhaust is on, which believe me, that was a nightmare in itself. I can now tighten from here and then go underneath and tighten there, and then put all that back together and to get back to where I was a few hours ago. So, the joys. Right, interesting. I can't recreate it because I've just tried looking for them. But when I picked this up to put it back on, because I've tightened the exhaust at the top here, I heard a rattle. We heard a rattle when this started up. Didn't sound like chain, didn't sound like turbo, didn't sound like anything like that. And I've checked the turbo seems fine. I can't feel any play in it. There's nothing else here apart from turbo and starter motor. There's actuator, there's nothing really here that can make noise. But inside here was some stones. And when I was rattling it, it did kind of rattle. And I'm wondering the vibration of the engine was just making them stones. Now, again, I could be completely wrong. Don't know. But I've taken the stones out. So it'd be good to know. Or see. Right, any eagle-eyed viewers figured out what I forgot to tighten under here? Before I say stop the video and actually see if you can guess. But I wonder how many people are going to say it after I show them. Oh, I told you, I knew what you didn't tighten. I bet no one actually saw it, but anyway. The turbo exhaust bolt, I forgot to tighten that, so I'm going to do that now. Move the clamp down and tighten it. Right, we are close to starting this and hoping nothing goes wrong. Kind of would have done it, or should have done it a little bit different, but it's not a problem because I've got to put engine oil in it, I've got to put coolant in it, I've got to put power steering fluid in it, I've also got to put gearbox oil in it. So I've got to check all these things at once, which is a lot to check at once. Normally, you know, because when I start this as a special procedure for the gearbox, I have to bleed the water system, I have to bleed the power steering. So there's special systems or the special ways of doing things. So what I'm going to do first is, before I forget, we've more or less got everything in place. Just the bottom cooler pipes to go in, I think, and I think that's basically it. I don't think there's anything else. Or connect the battery. So yeah, let me get the oil first. Right, here's the oil I am using, and it is the where is it? The Mercedes spec. I know it's Mercedes. Where did I see it? Why didn't it say Mercedes on this one? And yet it says Mercedes on this one, look. I know this is Mercedes spec. I've got 7 litres of it, but why isn't it saying, there we go, Mercedes. I knew it. So, no point me showing you pouring that in. Ooh. So pour that in, at least that's one thing out of the way. What I do have to change is the diesel filter, but I can do that once we got the engine running and everything's okay. So yeah, we do that first. Right, it's very important you get these little covers back on, because that's what holds the little clip in place as well. So, intercooler pipes. Obviously all the covers have to go on, but I have to do the service on the automatic gearbox first. The diesel pipes. So it's really just the diesel pipes. I've got to connect the suspension in. Done that. Intercooler pipes. And that's it. Right, theoretically, if this was a manual gearbox, I could now start this. Just pull the fluid in and start it, not think anything of it. But I have to now do the service on the automatic gearbox. So I've got engine oil in, topped up the power steering, new coolant, so that's all ready to go when we start it. Obviously all the new fan belts, water pumps are on, everything's on underneath here, all the wires are on. Just got to connect one more AC line, but that's not going to really stop me starting it. Got to connect the battery, the suspension, but the suspension isn't stopping me starting it. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is finish off the automatic gearbox service, and we'll go from there. Right, okay, apart from the battery and connecting the brake lines, ABS lines and suspension at the top, or the top shock, I think we're done. So what I've got to do now is I've got to service the gearbox. Now, this is easier if you wasn't having to start the engine for the first time with the timing chain and all that sort of stuff. But I technically maybe could have taken it off altogether with the oil in, but as soon as the torque converter comes out, it just would have all come out anyway, and the chances of trying to keep the torque converter in when you really want to is slim to none. So look, we just have to do what we have to do. But like I said, there's a lot of things that I've done that I've never seen people show in a video. Like for example, the torque converter bolt. We're going to replace the torque converter sump bolt. We're going to replace this sump bolt. We're also going to replace these bolts as well, because all these bolts need replacing according to Mercedes. So we're going to do all that. We're also going to replace the filter inside here, and I've also drained the cooler as well, which again I've never heard anyone talk about. So you know, if you just take the oil out here, yes, you will get 95% of it, maybe 90% of it, but there's still oil in the torque converter and there's still oil in the cooler. So, you know, you want to get as much out as absolutely possible. It's like an engine. You're never going to get all the oil out. There's always about half a litre of oil in the engine, which you can never get out. There's always going to be some oil in here you can never get out. But the more you can get out, the better. So let me just set up the drain pan, because there's going to be a bit of oil in here. It's going to be a little bit more oil in here. Not a big deal. In this particular case, we do have a dipstick here. Or, you know, it's not a dipstick because there's no dipstick there. Mercedes doesn't give you one, but it's a tube that we can pour oil down and get it into the sump. It's going to take a long time because we have to put 6 or 7 litres in this. So it will take a long time to go down. So let me get everything set up and then we'll get that off. Right, we need to be careful because they're T30s, if I remember, yeah. And the bolts don't go through the pan. They're actually these little kind of claws that grab them. I'll show you once we get it off. Also, we're going to be replacing the gasket. So you can see it's like these little claws that go up to the body and kind of just clamp it on, so they don't go through the pan at all. So just be aware of that. And I'm hoping once I drop down the back and the middle, it should fluid should start coming out the back. That's what I'm hoping. Again, there was no leaks on this. We're going to replace everything because why not? Do something. Might as well do it properly and not do it half-hearted. I was hoping maybe a bit of oil drop. Maybe I got a bit more out than I thought. Here we go. Now the bottom. All in. That's what I wanted. Yeah, there's oil there. Just you can't see it, but I can fit 3 of my fingers in the back, and so as soon as you loosen them, believe me, the back or the front, whichever one you loosen, will drop quickly. And if you haven't got all the oil out, it's going to go everywhere. I mean everywhere. So let's see if we can. Oh, this is going to be. I'm going to get soaked. There we go. Look at that. That's what I wanted. So I got more out than I actually thought I did. See the filter now? Just let that drain, and I'm going to get this filter off, and I'll show you a lot closer what everything looks like. Now, oh yeah, little. I knew that was going to happen. Alright, this is a little filter. Let that drain. It looks clean in here, which is good. You can actually change these solenoids quite easy actually. So if you have a solenoid issue, you're kind of okay. But it's if you have any other issue, you're kind of in trouble as regards doing it yourself anyway. There is the filter. You can't quite see, but hopefully the filter mechanism is in there. It does actually look quite bad. I would say this hasn't been changed ever, but maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it has. Alright, let me just get all this oil off me, and I'll show you a lot closer. Alright, as you can see, looks fairly clean under there, still dripping a little bit, but it's not a problem. Oh, it looks good. Now when I did check it, see here's the tube here, when I did check it, I've got the extra dipsticks you get for Mercedes. I don't think I've got the exact one that does the level of this, but I've got the ones that, you know, for the engine and stuff. And when I actually looked at it, when we was looking at it, the oil did look quite good, but I have noticed a few things. So this is the filter, and we can see if it's gonna, oh. You can see, there we go, it's quite bad, and here should be our kit, the good kits anyway, have a new magnet. Now you can just take this off and you know, clean it, but and you always expect a little bit on. I know that looks bad, but they all do. So this is kind of, it's not bad, you know, but when you start seeing these big flakes here, turn the camera off, this is what isn't particularly that good. There's a lot of big flakes on it, but again, we should be able to just clean this completely and take all this off, and then we should be good to go. Let's run through and see what we get in the kit. So we get all our new sump plugs. That's for the torque converter. That's for, where is it? That's for the actual sump itself. Here's our new magnet. Here's our new bolts. So that's all good. Here's our new gasket. Again, that's good. Here's our special oil. Now these kits are just bloody expensive. Ridiculously expensive. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 litres of oil. This should be our new filter, which it is. So good. And this is going to be our new electrical connection. I'm guessing. Yeah. There we go. So that's it. Let's have a look at the filtering part of this. See if we can see it a bit clearer on the new one. Yeah, there you go. That's what I was trying to show you on the other one. So there we go. Not bloody cheap. That just pushes up into that hole there. It's very simple. Alright, now you can really see the filings on the magnet. I would say maybe a little bit more than normal, but I just don't think this has ever been done, to be honest, so that's why the build-up is worse. Right, you can see where the magnet was, just there. What I need to do now is just clean this completely, get all the crap off. That's all the old filings, look. Anyway, so just clean the hell out of this with brake clean, get it all nice and clean, and then we can continue. Right, this just gets better and better and better. I think this is the -6 gearbox, not the -9, which has the little plastic piece. So I've got dipsticks here, and I've just put it down. This one happens to be a brand new one. I got a set of them, right? Just put it down, just to make sure this was the right one, because according to all the data, this is the right one, right? Before I show you what happened, so I've just put it down, the dipstick hole, right? Just literally put it down, didn't force it or anything, pulled it back out, and look, the end has come off and now got stuck in the tube. So I cannot fill that, I cannot check it, I cannot do anything. We are in serious trouble now. And to even get that tube off inside the engine is going to be practically next to impossible. Unfucking believable. Right, look what we got in there. We got the Hobby Tools camera, and look, right fucking there. Can you just believe that? I just don't know what we're going to do. We've tried air, we've tried everything, cannot get it out. Go for it. Whoa, 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 there we go.
Here we go.
Yeah, got it. This just gets better and better. So the dipstick that I originally checked this with was completely wrong, but it was enough to get into the gearbox just to check the colour of the fluid. Now, there's 3 different dipsticks for this. I thought I had them, but I don't. There's a 615, a 625 and a 630. The motor factors can get the 615 and the 630, but guess which one I need? The 625, or sorry, 640. So the one I need, they cannot get. Oh, just gets better and better. And of course, the customer's been waiting an absolute age for this, which was my fault. So now I'm putting it back together. It's, oh, this is the problem with cars. Sometimes it's just fucking annoying. Right, just this is turning into a nightmare. All the hassle we've had with bloody dipsticks breaking and then can't get them, and the manufacturers can get every single one but the one I need, and I thought I had the original one, and oh god. Anyway, when I looked at this kit, I was thinking it was very unusual how I didn't have that bottom thing, but then I did have, and I even said it in the beginning of the video, that you have this for the dipstick holder tube, because when you take it off, this gets broke, so that's why they replace it. And then I don't need that because you fill it from the dipstick. So anyway, this is the 722.6, where I was thinking of the 722.9 gearbox, which has the little thing on. Some of the Audis have it on as well, so it's not just the Mercedes. Anyway, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the new gasket on. I'm going to put the new magnet in. I'm going to put the new sump plug on. I'm going to go and put all these on, because at least I can do that. I have to fill it up with 5 litres first anyway. And then hopefully I can get the dipstick tomorrow. If not, I'm in serious trouble. Get the dipstick tomorrow. 5 litres is enough, because you have to put 5 litres in. I'll go through the procedure. You have to put 5 litres in and run it, and then check it to make sure you've got enough in it. So 5 litres is never going to be enough. They just say that 5 litres is enough to start it and let it flow. Then you wait for the temperature to come up, and then you put however much more you need in after that. There's little tabs and holes there where it goes into, so you know if you've got it right. There's another little tab there, look. So it's gone into all the tabs. That's good. Now what we need to do, put the new magnet in there. Now we've got all the new nuts and bolts to put it all back on. New sump plugs, new everything. Right, even without the dipstick, we can still do some of the procedure, because essentially the procedure is to get this on, put 5 litres of oil into it, run the engine, let it come up to temperature, and then double check it. Like I said, you will need a little bit more, but what the 5 litres is going to allow me to do is to physically start it and check the engine, basically check everything. That's what it's going to allow me to do, and then when I get the other parts in tomorrow, I can then figure that out. So, seal. Well, there's a little tab here, and that goes into a little tab in the gearbox. So, be very careful, because you don't want to break that. And there we go. That is in. Now we can put the sump on. What did I do with it? Right, so put this back on. Get a new bolt and an old clamp, but a new bolt, which is important. And just screw them all on hand tight at the minute. So get the old bolt away. Use a new bolt. In. Alright. Now that's kind of held for me. That should be good. You don't need to see me screw in the other bolts. You just need to not use them, reuse that. Then we get the other 4 in, and then we'll be good to go. Right, the new torque converter one's in, that's 8 Newton meters. The new sump one's in, that's 22. Here they are, look, here's the old ones, 22 Newton meters. And you tighten these like you would a wheel in like a star pattern, just so it's evenly done. Now what we've got to do is put some oil in it. Right, actually no, this is 8 Newton meters, and if you've got the M10 nut, it's 10 Newton meters. This is the smaller nut. You get both of them in the kit. That's why you'll have a spare one left over, but it's not for anything. So now we got to fill it. Right, this is the oil that comes in the kit. This is the special oil you need to use, and it states 5 litres first. I've already put 4 litres in. Put it through the dipstick tube. Doesn't take long. And then we can start it, run it, make it up to temperature, and we'll check the levels. Hope if I can get dipsticks and everything tomorrow. What you have to do, depending if you've loosened or emptied all the oil out the torque converter, which we have, you have to let it go to 80 degrees and you have to do that to the computer. If you empty all the oil out the oil cooler at the front, which we did, you have to let it go to 90 degrees and wait for the thermostat to open to make sure before you check the level again. So there's a big procedure depending on what you have done or what you haven't done. This is now 5 litres gone in. So I can put the battery on. I'm going to connect the ABS sensors first, put the battery on, then we're going to start it. And fingers crossed, doesn't go bang. Right, all I got left to do now is put on the negative. And we're going to try and start it. I've got oil in it, gearbox oil. We still have to do kind of check that, but power steering's topped up, coolant's topped up. This is kind of now or never. I'm going to have to prime it first because it's going to be airlocked. Take off your gloves. Oh, there we go. Absolutely nothing.
Did you tight terminals?
Surely the battery
Connect something here?
connected it all back. Surely it can't be flat. Right, all I had to do was take the key out of the ignition because it was already in, and then it sprung to life because the battery was fine. I didn't think I left anything out. Right, so now prime the system and let's see what happens. System is being primed. Any leak?
You do it a few times.
Yeah. I can hear the pump priming. We ready? Any leaks? Okay. Right, here you go. Hopefully it's just airlock. It's turning over, it's not starting, so it sounds okay. So let me just make sure the battery isn't completely flat, or if it's not airlocked. Right, we've got the jump pack on. I can't see anything wrong as regards anything. Nothing. Right, still hasn't started. I'll try it again. I can hear the pump. Oh, you can hear it, can you? I'm just going to prime it a few times and he says you can hear the airlock. Right, done it a few more times. Let's see. Woo! Oh yeah! Just going to turn it off a second. Oh baby! It started! It started! I did. I just want to make sure everything's okay. Engine lights on, I don't know why. Maybe I've forgotten to plug a sensor in, but we'll check that. But I just want to make sure nothing leaked, nothing. Let me go around and check it for a few minutes and I'll tell you if I find anything. Right, let's just see. Just leveling itself out there. I don't know if you saw that little stumble. Now it's kind of seems fine. I just need to let this run, but I have to be careful because I don't want the gearbox to get too hot. I've also got to check the oil level again. I can check the oil level now. I'm just going to have to top up a little bit because obviously the filter and stuff. Just let me do that off camera. And then the power steering fluid as well. I can kind of bleed that.
Indicator fluid, okay.
Indicator fluid should be okay, but we can check it. Right, I'm not sure what's going on. I've just done a full scan on it. No fault codes at all. Engine appears to be missing. You heard it stumbling and I turned it off and I was just doing a few more checks and I started it again and it's missing, so I turned it off to do another full scan and no fault codes. I don't know what's going on at the minute. Oh, I don't know. We'll have to keep checking. Listen to that baby purr! Oh yes. Right, we are all good. Now you have to bear in mind when you do massive work on an engine like this, so many things can go wrong. Things can break even though they're not your fault, especially modern injectors. You can take an injector out and put it back in, it could have been working and bang, it just goes. What I didn't film it because it just took too long and I wasn't sure what was going on, but you heard the engine initially. It took a long time to start after it started initially. And then we got injector 1 fault code, we got injector 4 fault code, we got a few fault codes coming up and the engine sounded really bad. It was missing, it wasn't firing properly, it wasn't doing everything. So what I did is I just undone all the injector electrical connections and just put them all back in. And I heard clicking noises down here. The pulley, I'll show you in a second, the tensioner pulley isn't great. It's wobbling, it's causing the belt to come off slightly. It's not a big deal. There doesn't seem to be any leaks. We've gone through the gearbox. What you have to do is you have to put the gearbox through all the different gears and stuff. You have to do that a few times. But now it essentially is starting straight away, like as it should do. So if I just put the camera here. So instantly fires up, sounds lovely. The engine sound never comes through properly on camera, but fires straight up, absolutely lovely. You can see, you see that moving, you see it there, so that tension is gone, or going, not gone yet, but it's going. So yeah, but in the minute, it's all good. No engine lights, absolutely perfect, which is all happy days and good, certainly for my heart rate. Right, what we need to do is we need to cycle the gearbox through all its different settings, basically, or not settings, but you know, reverse, neutral, drive, and click it through the gears. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, and so on. Bring it back. Just do that a few times just to make sure the oil is doing what it should do. Go through that 3 or 4 times, make sure it's going through it, make sure it's not making any noises, and then what we can do is we can look at the scan data, and then we will check the level with the temperature of the scan data. Right, just absolutely unbelievable. You're not going to believe this. I'm so far behind with this car, it's not even funny. I've pissed the customer off something awful, and that's my own fault. I didn't start it for 2 or 3 weeks when I said I was going to. There is excuses, but like everything, look, it's excuses. I got COVID, I got behind in my work. Look, it is what it is. So I can't tell the customer now more issues, because they're just like, and I understand it, look, I don't give a shit, they're just excuses. Where is my car? I ordered the dipstick. They've sent me the engine dipstick, not the automatic transmission dipstick. So I now have to wait more times. It's just so frustrating when you do something like this and it just gets delayed. Now, it wouldn't be so much a problem if I got to this when I said I was going to get to it. But because I didn't, it's more of an issue, and it's just an absolute nightmare. So what I've done is I put another litre of oil in it, because I know I can get away with 6 litres. I think I'm going to have to put about just under 7 litres in, but I just want to be 100% sure with the dipstick. So what I'm doing, this is now cold, so I'm going to start it from cold again, and we're going to see how long it takes and what it sounds like. If you remember, yesterday we were all good, so let's just turn the ignition on. The ignition is on, and there we go. Cold start, perfect. Oh yes, I like it, I like it. I've got to put all the covers on now, all the covers on the wheels, covers, blah 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 blah. But it started well. Right, we're underneath after all that running. Let's turn on the light, and no leaks, which is all good. The gearbox is all dry, which again is bloody good. It's all good. Oh, I've got to take that off because I replaced it with a Jubilee clip because this was damaged. So you can get off because you're just a waste of time. Come on, yeah. Done. Alright, I'm just putting all the bars on so I can put all the covers on. But I'm not going to put all the engine covers on. I'm just going to put the wheel arch covers on until, you know, I'm fully happy after a drive, after everything, that this is fine. So yeah, it's on all 4 of its wheels. Yeah. Right, let's see. Will it go into gear, or will it drive? Oh, it drives! It drives, people! It drives! Let me take this for a test drive and we'll see. Right, taking it for a drive, everything is good. We've got hot air inside now. I still haven't put the covers on because I want to make sure nothing is leaking. The sump is leaking, but I didn't touch that, so that's okay. I will tell the customer. But everything else is absolutely fine. The sump was leaking for a while, you can see. So all our seals are absolutely perfect. It's up in there, which is all good. So yeah, we're good to go. It really isn't leaking bad. I think it's just more, it's not leaking, it's more weeping. You know, but anyway, look, most important thing is it's driving okay. There's no leaks, there's no nothing like that. So it's all good. Look at that, accelerates absolutely perfect. Going through all the gears, smooth as you like. It's sorted, which is obviously a good thing. Remember that last part of the video where I said everything was fine and it was driving perfectly? On the way back, started making this like little noise. It's definitely coming from this side. And basically what it was is, or what I think it is, what I'm pretty much sure is, the exhaust was just slightly off. So there's a lot of adjustment on this exhaust. This bracket is all fully adjustable. That bracket is, there's two brackets down there that are all fully adjustable. You've obviously got these in it as well, which gives it a bit of flexibility. So there's a lot of adjustability in this exhaust, and you need to get it right because otherwise it won't seal itself properly. And as it was ticking over, there's a little tiny bit of fumes I could see coming out here. It wasn't getting into the cab, it wasn't loud or anything like that, but it was still, you know, it was kind of noticeable. One thing I also did notice is you can see the actuator is leaking from the exhaust. Now, we did hear a funny noise originally, and I'm wondering if it's the actuator making that noise that we heard originally. So it's something to be aware of. There's nothing I've touched, but still, so I'm going to tell that to the customer as well. They keep an eye on it. Right, it's all good apart from the steering wheel, so I'm going to go to another place because I don't have a four-wheel laser alignment proper jobby tracking machine. So I'm going to go to another place and get that done, and I'll see if I can take a video of the tracking anyway. So I'll be able to take a picture of the screen anyway, so at least we know that's right. But I finally got the exhaust on. So apart from the steering wheel, but as you can see, it goes through all the gears. Of course, as soon as I decide to pull off, a string of bloody cars come. Unbelievable. And like, not just right, just let me slow down a bit. We'll go off again. Come on. No more weird noises coming out of the exhaust. It was a bit of a nightmare. 3 or 4 times I had to adjust that bloody exhaust. Turn the light off. Right. Absolutely perfect. Going through all the gears nice and smoothly. Not a problem. We'll have to stop at 60 because, you know. But there we go. Absolutely perfect. So it's all good. It is all good. Happy days. Ooh. Now, get it tracked and change the diesel filter. That's all I got to do. And put the covers back on underneath. So it's just a diesel filter. And this is a genuine Bosch diesel filter. 2839. It's weird because it has the sensor on, which is not particularly weird. Has an extra pipe, which that one doesn't. It's blocked off. Okay, fair enough. But then it looks like it's been sealed on, and it looks like someone's done it in the garage. It doesn't, and I've rang through and it is right. But yeah, it just looks a bit iffy, but we'll see. Okie dokie. Last thing to do, I'm going to replace these with proper Jubilee clips just because they're just easier, especially for the next person who hasn't got the tool. I have the tool, but anyway, look. Jubilee clips are just better, easier. Easier more so than maybe better. And you can see I can use a while of these. So you take this. Just what it. Please get a little hook in there. Someone's been at these and that's that one, don't need that one. Let me get my little hook maybe. Sometimes you can just get it. There we go. Oh, that's not helping. There we go. All these clips. Pull and pull and come out. Now with this new one, what I've just realised, on some of the other Mercedes, this has like an anti-bleed thing. Well, not an anti-bleed thing, but a bleeder, and that can go up. Oh, it's the wrong filter. Oh. Wrong filter. Oh. Right, bit of a nightmare. There's 3 different type of filters for this bloody car. Anyway, we got the right one. Bit tricky to get it on, but we got it on. I had to squeeze that together before I put the clamps together. Bit cheaper than the other one, so the customer will be happy. Even though in the big grand scheme of things, it hasn't saved that much money. But still, hey, every bit helps, doesn't it? As Tesco's would say. So I've got to do the same thing again as regards bleeding it. We can do it through the scan tool, or we can just turn the ignition up. But now, we truly have done a full service, and I've replaced them with Cuba clips as well, which is obviously better. And yeah. Alright, just letting it bleed, and this is the issue when you're doing something like this, especially a big job. Like the delays with the dipstick for the transmission. You know, the problem with this coming wrong, the exhaust, all the other issues, and I'm under a lot of pressure with this, and that is kind of due to my own doing, fair enough. But still, it's, you know, these little things take so much time. I'll just cycle the ignition again. These things take so much time away from doing the job, and if there's any issues, anyway, he was whispering because he doesn't want to be on camera. So if he whispers, he's not on camera. Yeah, it just takes away time and everything, you know, and if there's any issues, you have to obviously go through them, and that can take time. But I just cycle this ignition one more time. Then we'll take it for a drive again, and then get rid of that. And then we will put it on the lift again, make sure there's no leaks, and put all the covers on. That was a lot easier than the other time, wasn't it? Right, just let that tick over, make sure there's no leaks, and we'll take it for a drive. Right, we are more or less done, but as we know, the most important part of any job is we haven't sprayed the bullshit yet. So we're going to spray the bullshit, and then we are definitely finished the job. We are spraying the bullshit right now, and you need to watch my other videos to understand what I mean about spraying the bullshit. But we have sprayed the bullshit, and we are officially done, sorted. No, we've got to do the diff oil, and I honestly didn't forget to do this and just speaking to the customer and then realised that I had to do it. That wasn't the case at all. I always remembered I had to do the diff oil. I even brought the oil in absolutely everything. Now, as you're doing the diff oil, always make sure you can loosen the filler first, which is up there, before you drain it all out, because if you can't, then you're going to be in serious trouble. I have cracked it, it is loose. So let me just get all that off, let it all drain out and put the new stuff in. Right, I know it's a bit noisy in here, but this is the oil that is recommended. It is ridiculously expensive, but then again it is a Mercedes. So we're just waiting for the rest to drain. We have taken out the filler plug. Once that's drained, we'll put that in. Lucky enough, this has a nice squeezable lid, and I'm just going to be able to put it in there like that, like that, see that? And just squeeze it in until it starts overflowing, and then I know we're full. And look, I've reunited the family. That's the gearbox filter. There's gearbox oil in there. I think there's a bit of engine oil in there. Now there's a bit of diff oil in there. Right, so what I'm doing is I'm just squeezing it in here, straight through there, and as soon as it starts overflowing, I know I've got enough in, then I can just tighten it up, and then we've got brand new spanking diff oil in. Boom. The compressor's going again, but look, I just put this here. You can see now, look, it's just overflowing. So we know that is now full. We can tighten this back up properly. And then we have new diff oil in. Boom. Right, the car's been here. It's been ticking over. So no drips of oil or any drips on the floor, which is good. Last check before I put all the covers on, and everything is absolutely bone dry, no leaks, no nothing, which is just bloody awesome. Well, that was me. Which is just bloody awesome, look. So now I can put the covers on, knowing that we're going to be good. New gear or new diff oil as well. So yeah, we're good to go. Right, finally I've got it, but the problem is this was a hell of a lot more expensive, but it still looks dodgy down there. This is the reference number you need as regards what the Autodata is telling you anyway. That's the part number, but that's the reference number. So let me get that out, and yeah, fingers crossed. Right, I'm terrified of putting this in because of what happened with the last one. Let me get the camera on it. See, it says 25 and 80. That's the degrees depending on the hotness. Is that a word? Hotness of the gearbox. Right, the first check we need to do is when it's at 25 degrees and it's now at 19, and you can see on the dipstick here it says 25. So let me wait till that says 25. We'll dip it, we'll see what it says, then we'll let it go to 80. Again, we'll dip it and we'll see what it says. Right, 25 degrees. Get the old dipstick in and we'll check it. What does it say? We need we need a tiny bit more. Let me just get some more in. Alright, I've added a bit more. That's the oil on the tube. The problem there was because I poured oil down it, the oil is physically on the tube, and I haven't got a true reading, so I'm gonna have to wait for it to kind of drain down rather than sticking to the side of the tube. Oh, look at that! In the middle! In the middle! Now I've got to let it go to 80. Perfect. Now, don't be tempted when you think, oh, 25 degrees is okay, so 80 degrees must be okay. We're at 75 degrees now. I just quickly checked it, even though it's not, you can't tell at 75. But anyway, basically, it's halfway up in between the 25 and the 80. Now, there's a chance I might have to add a bit of oil here. There's a chance maybe I don't. but don't just assume because one of them's correct, the other one is. Because when it gets hotter, things open up, the oil goes into other places, you know, so you have to get the levels right. It's looking like I'm going to have to add a little bit, but I'm not 100% sure yet. Yes, I have to add a bit. You can just see, where is it? It's just here, and I need it to be in there. So I need to add just another little bit, and then we should be good. 78 degrees, come on 80, come on 80! Right, last time, let's check this just to see. Look at that, can you see? Oh, bloody sun. Now look at that. There we go, spot on. You can see that? Near the hour of the 80, spot on, and look, we're at 80 degrees, so boom, 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 we are done. Right, I had to add oil in there, obviously. I'm not going to say how much because I know people are just going to, you know, check maybe 25 and just add a little bit, so I'm not going to do it, so you have to kind of check it yourself, but more than you think, let's put it that way. Right, this is going to be the most satisfying part of this job. So, we're getting the dipstick cover down, but this, are you ready? Are you ready for this? This is just, this whole job is now over. Ready? Oh, there you go. Oh, it's done. Oh, it's done. It's done. Oh, it's fucking done. The car is on the tracking machine. It's just got here, so let's get it tracked. This is the machine they are using. How's Monkey? It's telling you what to do step by step. Car's going to move now in a second. There we go, look. Lower the car down. And there we go, look. We've got the steering wheel now straight. And there we go, look. We're not a mile off, but we are off. So when we get this level, our steering wheel is going to be straight and our tracking's going to be done. Things have to get worse so they get better, isn't that what they say? Yeah, keep going. Keep going. Whoa, whoa, that's it. Well, you could go a tad more. Bingo. Yeah. Wrong way. Keep going. If she sees. Yeah, go for it. That's the right way, yeah. Keep going. She still seized. Smell of gas. Whoa, that's it. Tying her off. Right, look at that. The steering wheel is straight. I have to turn a little bit. Right, look at that. The steering wheel is straight. Awesome. The job is now officially done.